don't need a reason. You're going to have to defend yourself, regardless. That's the thing about the American legal system. You cannot ignore it. I don't care if it costs me $1 million to take $1,000 out of your bank. You're going to be in court twice a month for the rest of your human years. I don't care. I will sue you for any and every reason forever. And you're going to have to hire lawyers and turn up forever. I will do that. I'm that guy. I'm petty. I'm petty and I've got a lot of money and a lot of time. So it's not even about guilty. It's not about why. It's just about because I can.
Since then, we've sued all those people who were lying about us on Twitter.
You are going to jail. You are going to jail. And for those of you watching, my special viewers who are not going to jail, I'm going to financially bankrupt you. You know that house your mother owns, your father, your uncle, where you live, your business? I'm going to take everything you have. I just want to remind a few special viewers who I know are watching tonight that you are going to jail, or losing your job, or losing your business and or house.
So you plan to sue the makers of adolescents?
I've got a lot of people to sue. My people to sue list is very, very long. And, you know, I've got probably, you know, a good 10, 15 more years of this. I'm going to be suing people all the time for the rest of my life. Even if it just bankrupts them and I don't even win any money, it'll just be fun.
I still might litigate him into the... Why not? What else?
Are you suing the BBC for $1 billion?
I don't know who I'm suing, but the list is as long as my arm. I'm suing a lot of people. I have a team of high-powered lawyers. Sue this person, they said this. Sue this person, they said this. All these lawsuits are starting. All these people are panicking, getting letters to their house. These court cases are definitely going ahead. So yeah, I'm gonna sue loads of people just because I think it's fun.
We're suing everybody. Everybody who lied about us. Everybody who contributed to this slander campaign is going to be taken to court, where they're going to have to explain who paid them to do this.
Hello, we are live. Welcome to the Andrew Tate is suing me support group. So for those that are maybe new, this is not a meme. This is not clickbait. So Andrew and Tristan Tate are suing me and a number of other people on social media, including a few guests that I have. So they are suing us. Hey, James. They're suing us for defamation per se, civil conspiracy. So a few things to note, and hello, either Andrew, Tristan, or your lawyers, Joseph, Thomas, hello there. So a few things to start off the top of at the start of this stream. So anything we say during this stream is our opinion, our perception, unless we say otherwise that something is a fact. And this, you're broke, Tate. Oh, I thought you were calling. Oh, I didn't see the. I thought you were calling me broke. Yes, Tate. I don't know if Tate is broke. That's your opinion. And so this stream is not so much about promoting my projects as well. So you'll see a link to a crowdfund pinned in the chat. So a number of us in the lawsuit are crowdfunding our defense. So if anyone can donate, that would be a big help. We're all just normal people, some parents, people with disabilities. We're not powerful people with people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens letting us come on their show to promote what we're doing. So yeah, so if anyone would like to donate, please don't do a super chat. But if you'd like to donate towards the lawsuit, please use the link in the pinned comment there. So without further you're allegedly broke, that's better, allegedly. So without further ado, so I've got a few guests here. So I've got Nathan Livingstone, who some may remember has made some viral videos about Andrew Tate, and some may know by his Twitter handle MilkBar TV. So firstly, Nathan, how you going? Can you hear me there? You're clear?
Yeah, good. How you doing?
Good, thanks, man. Good. Good. And I'm not sure if Crayons has made it in. Crayons may be joining us or may not be. No, but we've got another member of the lawsuit of the what the Tates claim is a conspiracy to defame and say mean things about them. Just Me. How you going, Just Me? Do you want to say hello?
Good morning, Gadget. Good morning, everybody. It's an honor to be here.
Cool. And good to see a lot of the regulars, my regular stream viewers here. I've been doing a few streams lately and kind of getting the hang of it and working out what we're doing here. But we'll have a few like videos and a few bits and pieces I want to look at later. But I know some of you that are kind of the OG followers from X and the Twitter Spaces and have followed us there may know my guests, specifically Nathan. But some of I know there's not 100% crossover, so some of you might not. So, Nathan, do you want to kind of like introduce yourself and how you got involved in all of this and what kind of content that you've made, what kind of non-defamatory content that you've made about the Tates as well, just to fill in, I guess, some of my viewers that might not be as familiar.
Yeah, so my first video on Andrew Tate was back in July 2023, and that was in response to his interview with Tucker Carlson. My history of Andrew Tate was, I wasn't a fan of him. I was kind of somewhat aware of him, and I knew of his reputation as this seemingly misogynistic guy who said awful things about women and had a kind of, retrograde idea about masculine and feminine roles. I saw him on his Piers Morgan interview, and I thought the guy was, he came across to me like a bit of an edgelord, really. I mean, I didn't really think either way, to be honest. I kept hearing more and more things and seeing more and more things. And someone pointed out to me that he used to run a webcam business. And I thought that was really interesting because I never saw that actually be brought up in any of his interviews. And so then by the time he got interviewed by Tucker Carlson, I was somewhat more aware of him and his past. And then it was in that interview, it was after he'd been indicted, him and Tristan, for human trafficking and rape and organized crime. But Tucker asked him, he asked him if he was charged with rape, and Andrew Tate said he wasn't. And to me, that was very suspicious, because I was aware enough to have seen indictment document showing that there was a charge for rape. So I thought that was very suspicious. So I dug in more and more, and that prompted my first video, I guess, kind of, exposing him. But it was more just kind of digging around and finding videos that were already out there of him seemingly self-snitching to what appeared to be the crimes that he was then charged with. So I put that together, and it just went really, really viral. I think it got nearly 12 million views. And I think it was because my account, is kind of center right wing. And I think that was the group of people that had embraced him. So I think the left had kind of cancelled him at that point, and he'd been embraced by the right. And except all these people on the right wing hadn't actually seen all this stuff or known about his past. So this was all new to them. And for some reason, somehow I kind of packaged this video in a way that, I don't know, it went really viral and was very impactful. And pretty much like all the large mainstream conservative influencers kind of overnight denounced him based on these videos of him from his past admitting to seemingly horrible things. And then from there, I kind of just went down a bit of the rabbit hole and, kept making more and more videos. And I mean, my approach was that I would make bite-sized small videos on different subjects, really. Because what I found was that, whenever I'd post about Andrew Tate, his followers would come back with these kind of programmed replies that seemed like they got it from him. And so this was just a way of being able to reply to that with, it was pretty much just mostly videos of Andrew Tate contradicting what his fans were saying and even what he seemed to be saying. So that was kind of my philosophy. And, yeah, that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years, pretty much up until I got sued. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that the Tucker Carlson video. That was your first, or at least first viral video, was it? And I've actually got that one teed up. That I was, you sent me the link, and I thought that was a good one to play the start of, at least the first kind of minute or two of, because that really kind of shows for the viewers that aren't aware, and they may think, are these guys just lying and just running around calling these guys rapists and that's it? Like, this video really shows you showing Tate's words and then showing the things from the court documents that say something.
It's a good,
in my
yeah,
opinion,
it's a good kind of it's a good like starter pack, because it covers quite a lot of what he's said in the past, including seemingly admitting to scamming men with the webcam business, all the way through, him talking about his pimping hose degree. So yeah, I mean, that was me really just discovering all this stuff and putting it together. And like you said, that was the Tucker interview. So that was like July 2023. So I was fairly late to all of this stuff. So yeah, I mean, I was amazed by just how much of there was.
Well, what I'll do, just for the audience, I'm just going to play like the first few minutes of this, because I found that really telling of the way you describe how you go about making your videos. I think it's a really good example of what you do very well, is making these short videos that are very digestible, that just lay out the facts very well. So I'm not sure if you'll hear this on your end, but I'm just going to play the first minute or two, and then we'll go on to I also wanted to play, then that flows in really well to the video of him talking to Candace that you sent me as well. So I'm just going to play that now.
What are you charged with?
That's a really good question. I'm charged with being the head of an organized criminal group, which is in charge of recruiting girls to make TikTok videos.
They face charges which include human trafficking, rape, and forming a criminal gang to sexually exploit women.
OnlyFans is the best hustle in the world.
Are they accusing you of using violence or?
No. They're accusing me of using the lover boy method, coercing them by being nice.
Anyone here? I don't mention webcam until after I've had sex with you. I can. If you're on dates and you're trying to mention it and shit, it just doesn't.
I can use that.
I'd never do that. That's disgusting. I'm not a whore. It's just not gonna work. You continue as normal. No mention of webcam. You fuck the girl. After you fuck the girl, you do the PhD test.
So yeah, on CobraTake.com I have my PhD program, and that is PhD is a pimp and hose degree that I'm.
Clever.
And
Clever.
That teaches basically how I got girls, how I met girls, how I got girls to like me, how I got girls to fall in love with me to work on webcam for me.
And you're always working. Why don't you work for me so we spend more time together? Work for you doing what? So you'll have a webcam business. Oh, I don't want to do that. So, okay, I know you don't want to do that, but listen. Come, let's have a meeting. Let's just talk about it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Fine. But let me explain it to you properly. In fact, I'll bring one of the girls who works for me. Your bottom bitch is the one who does the selling. You don't do the selling. The girl has to hear it from a girl. And this is where your bottom bitch has to be trained. That's why I said it's so important to have a good first girl.
Because that's what I did. That was my MO, was find girls, make them love me, and make them work for me.
This girl's like, okay, well, I'll try it. Put both girls on camera together the first day, so the new girl can sit there and just sit with the other girl and get drunk. Give him a bottle of vodka.
First night that I worked for him, Andrew bought me like 5.
Okay, cool. So, change screen. Oops, wrong screen.
I don't need a reason.
I'm pretty new to this streaming stuff, guys. Bear with me if I fumble around a bit. But so yeah, that was like your first video that had a lot of views, millions of views. Of this, in my opinion, not just Tate talking to Tucker Carlson about his criminal case, but Tucker helping him lie about his criminal case. I found very interesting. So him prompting him with questions. You're not yeah, they're not accusing you of using violence, and as you showed very clearly, the court documents say something very different. And is this the video that, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew actually responded to this video because it was taking off so much and causing enough people to raise their eyebrows at who this guy really is. Is this the one that that Tate responded to himself?
Yeah, it got so big. He blocked me when it started going viral. And then, I'm in Australia like you, so our time zones are all over the place. So I went to bed as it was kind of taken off. And then by the time I woke up, it was just everywhere. Like Elon Musk had already responded to it. And so I saw that Tate had then unblocked me and then replied underneath saying he's going to be doing a response video to it. And yeah, then he ended up doing one of his Rumble videos. I mean, it was quite hilarious because, like I said, it was all these conservative commentators that were all coming out just pretty much saying, this is horrible, like this is indefensible. And so what the narrative that he seemingly spun to his audience was, okay, so like, it turns out that the left wing isn't all bad and the right wing isn't all good. There's in fact matrix agents on both sides of the political spectrum. And what they've clearly done in the past 24 hours, they've seen that, my interview with Tucker Carlson was so successful. And if you remember at the time, he was saying that it was the most seen interview in the history of interviews.
Yes.
So he said like, oh, this is the way that the Matrix is now trying to take me down. And so what they've done is they've activated all their agents on the right to try and take me down, which is hilarious. Like same thing with you, really. It's like I'm just an Aussie in my bedroom putting this thing together, and it's just the power of the internet. Seemingly the most Google man on the planet doesn't understand how a viral video works. Yeah, I mean, so it was quite interesting because you see that you see the wave of people, engaging and reacting to it on Twitter, and then eventually it gets to podcasts, and so then they start to program it into the podcast. And so for that week, it appeared like every conservative right-wing commentator and influencer was featuring segments showing the video and just denouncing Tate. And so I think it was pretty much everyone on Daily Wire did that, except for Candace Owens, who pretty much immediately flew to Romania to interview Andrew Tate. And if you've seen that interview with Andrew Tate by Candace Owens, it appears to me like it's a coordinated effort to run a well-crafted narrative to be able to defend him. Because I mean, she's seemingly pushing the same stories, like that he stopped his webcam business 10 years ago, and even pushing this kind of victim narrative of, that he grew up in the Luton, tough Luton, suburb, and how can anyone judge, yeah, so that was that was very surreal to see that, and she opened that interview addressing my video, and both of them agreeing that I'd taken clips out of context. And then hilariously, they then show the PhD program, but they show snippets. And I mean, to me, my interpretation is that they try and present it in the best way possible by framing it. Andrew Tate, I think, says that it was a video on dating and how hard it is to date when you're running a webcam business. Now, if anyone's seen the PhD program and the video that you'll probably show now, it very clearly is not that,
It's funny, yeah. It's like there's like an element of the PhD that is like pickup artist, how to get girls stuff, and to pretend that that's all it is in my opinion very silly. And yeah, that might lead into that other clip, because yeah, that you did send me this one, and I've got that queued up as well, because I found that really interesting, just to see the very quick response with Candace helping her good friend Andrew Tate. And I'm just gonna sorry, go on.
I mean, I guess that's where it's important to contextualize that, she's married to George Farmer, and George Farmer himself has said that he goes way, way back with Andrew Tate. long before Andrew Tate was Andrew Tate. And in fact, Candace Owens was even introduced to Andrew Tate back when she first started to date George Farmer in like 2019, I think it was. So there's a history that goes way back there. So George Farmer's like off camera there. You know, he traveled to Romania as well. And I think with this video, you know, I think what I convey well is showing how she deliberately, you know, features footage that suits the narrative that she's seemingly attempting to help push with Andrew Tate, and so she's manipulating her audience. You know, she did the same thing just recently with the Charlie Kirk thing. You know, she said that Tyler Robinson, the suspect, in the chats he says vehicle, and she says here's this old footage of Tyler Robinson, and it's a car stop with a cop, like a car crash video with body cam, and she says that Tyler Robinson uses car and he doesn't say vehicle in this footage, and then it turned out that she used footage of him saying car and cut out footage where he says vehicle in that video, so he does in fact say vehicle. So this is a manipulative technique that she's been doing for years now. So that shows that Candace is very, very aware of what she's doing.
Well, I might just play that video now, and I think just the first couple of minute and a half, 2 minutes is very telling, because it shows them reacting to literally that clip that the audience just saw, claiming it's out of context, and then you very well show what they don't show, I guess, from those segments of video. That's very interesting. So I might just play this now. Hang on just a moment. Just get the right video up. That's the one. Okay, I'm going to play that now.
That we're not going to show because I thought it was unfair. I will say that. Yeah. Only because there was no context provided to the clips. It was just an extract of something that you said that 10 years ago. Some of them were literally 10 years ago. Yep. So I do want you to contextualize.
Hang on. I want to pause just for a moment. That's crazy. 10 years ago, we're looking at these videos from, 2019. Some of them, Tate doesn't even have hair, which means 2020, 19 onwards. And it's just like, word for word, the script that we see the Tates say. It's what I find really interesting when we see these supposedly powerful people use these words. Did you have any thoughts on that, Nathan, before we play the rest of the video? Because I find that really telling.
Yeah, I mean, in a couple of these, I'm not sure if it's in this one, but I mean, there's videos of him during COVID where he specifically says this is during COVID, and he's talking about running a webcam business. So, you know, you put those things together, the 10-year thing kind of falls apart very, very quickly.
The math isn't mathin'. Oh man, I'll play the rest of this because it's really interesting how they, so claim it's out of context, claim it's 10 years ago, and then how they frame, I guess, your video from there. And again, I won't make any big statements about whether they're being honest or not. I'll leave that to the audience. And we'll go from there.
This video that has been circulating on the internet of you talking about the lover boy method. So we'll take a look at that right now.
Sure. You cannot get a girl to work for you having fun. So the recruitment process is the same as the PhD course. You message them on Instagram. The PhD course is my recruitment system. I don't mention webcam until after I've had sex with the girl. If you're on dates and you're trying to mention it and shit, it just doesn't work. It puts them off. I'd never do that. That's disgusting. I'm not a whore. It's just not gonna work. You continue as normal, no mention of webcam. You f the girl. After you f the girl, you do the PhD test. If she passes the PhD test and she wants to be with you, then you start mentioning things like, yeah, but you know, you're always busy. You're always at work. You can come work for me.
Okay, so first question, when was this video taken?
Yeah, so this video is from 10 years ago, and this is me explaining how having a webcam company, it's actually a larger video as a whole.
So, as I said, you cannot try and approach girls to do webcam. Hi, do you want to do webcam? It's bullshit. It doesn't work.
And it's explaining my general, overall, explains my life and how things are affected owning a pornography company, because obviously a lot of women will be put off by that.
No one's going to say yes. And any girl who does say yes is doing it. She doesn't like you. She doesn't know you. She doesn't love you. She's saying yes purely for money.
It doesn't explain, it doesn't say, I'd be very careful how I answer this question because I'm currently under an investigation, right? So I'd be very careful how I answer it. People are trying to chop it up and say that it says I am using the Loverboy method to somehow convince women to do things they didn't want to do. This is obviously not the case.
No mention of webcam. You f the girl. After you f the girl, you do the PhD test.
So yeah, on corporatetape.com I have my PhD program, and that is PhD is Pimpin' Hook.
Okay, cool. I think that gives us a pretty good idea. It's crazy stuff. The whole thing that's just about dating, I find really funny, personally. So, yeah, okay. So this kind of picked up, I guess, probably gave you some more followers. And what's your?
Well, I mean, to me, it was this thing, right? Because it was this weird thing where you're like, all right, Andrew Tate, trying to get like a handle on this guy. He's got his criminal cases, and it's very strange because then, to me, it appears like there's this large influencer network. Then that's also kind of, you know, then working as this support system to him. So that's where to me, there's so many different angles to, you know, approach Andrew Tate from. I mean, that's where, to this day, anyone who's familiar with my account knows that I'm, you know, making videos regularly on Candace Owens. And that's how it started. It started from this interview with seeing her, you know, from what I believed I saw was her being dishonest and actively deceiving her audience. You know, and I felt like I saw that with Tucker Carlson as well. And I feel like I've seen it with, you know, Patrick Bet David even, you know, and yeah, a whole bunch of these guys. So it's really, you know, there's so many different kind of angles to you know, head in with the whole Andrew Tate phenomena and yeah, the criminal cases, just all of it.
Yeah, and what you mentioned is a big thing. I've spoken a lot about as, I don't know, I guess like a motivation for me too, is the fact that they have these such powerful people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Patrick Bet David, who I've covered quite a lot on my channel. Just, yeah, helping them say these things and talk about the alleged victims in their cases as well. And it's just, like, so I felt like someone has to give an alternative view here, because if we don't, and especially like, for example, the alleged victims in their cases, they can't, for their own safety, come out and speak for themselves. I mean, we've seen that happen with Jane Doe in the US. We've seen her have to go into hiding, and it's like, if Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are helping them, someone needs to, I guess, give a voice to the other side, even if we're not speaking directly for them, but giving an alternative view. So and this gives, I guess, any of my audience who aren't aware, and someone in the chat just asked who might have joined during the stream, who I'm talking to. I'm talking to Nathan Livingstone, aka MilkBar TV, who is also being sued by Andrew and Tristan Tate in the lawsuit with myself and a number of others. And I did want to, you did mention your coverage of Candace Owens. I wanted to give that a shout out as well, because that's been really, really good work, I think. And I know there was one point that I was considering covering the Candace and Macron story, and I got so overwhelmed because she's produced, like, at that time it was 10 or a dozen hour plus long videos, and I'm like, how in the world am I going to go through this and do
Yeah.
And I can't imagine how long that's taken you to go through all that. So, so I want to give you a shout out. That's been really good work as well.
And the thing with the Macron is that it kind of reminds me of the Tate thing, where you'll ask for the evidence, and they'll say, "Well, you've got to watch, all 10 hours of it to understand," because there is no evidence really when it comes down to it. They can't present anything. All it is just throwing mud at the wall and just hoping things stick. You've got to it gets into genealogy and look at these photos and blah blah. And this person lives here at this town, and there really is just nothing to it. And we've seen the same approach to the Charlie Kirk assassination afterwards. It's the same thing, and to me, I just I've found myself without even thinking about it, heading in this direction of exposing alternative media grifters. Because the whole alternative media thing was meant to be in response to the mainstream media, who we were told were liars, who had biases, who also were in bed with people that they were reporting on, and all these kinds of things. And the way I've seen it is that alternative media is guilty of all the same things, but even far worse, far worse. I mean, to get back to the Candace Owens thing, after this interview with Andrew Tate, she dedicated an entire episode to seemingly attacking one of his alleged human trafficking victims. And to me, it's maybe the most disgusting thing I've ever seen a broadcaster do. I don't know how much you want to get into it, but it's really, really just horrendous stuff. I mean, we can talk about it, but I mean, to me, it's she does things in that are just, I mean, really, I call them evil, because there's no way that you can actually justify them morally.
Yes, and your video on that, I've actually referred to in a number of my longer form videos about the Jane Doe case. The one that you made about that episode of Candace Owens, and that was insane. That was incredible. The way she actively was repeatedly was over 100 times mentioning the name of someone who was a minor at the time, and said, "I'm going to protect the name of the abuser because the girl was a minor at the time, so I'm going to protect him." And it's just incredible. What do you make of the fact that, aside from us, who's spoken about this, I find that amazing that that's not actually a mainstream story, that someone with Candace's sort of platform did that. I mean, imagine if someone did that about an Epstein victim who was a minor at the time. And again, the Tates haven't been convicted of anything, but... Well,
but we're not talking... That's the thing.
You're right. This isn't even about the Tates, is it? This particular case, is it? It's about someone who is convicted.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, right? So the larger context is that the Tate brothers are also suing for defamation one of their alleged victims, and so they're suing her. And the idea behind their lawsuit, I believe, is that they're alleging that she has a pattern of accusing other men of similar things that she's accused the Tate brothers of in Romania. So that's the premise of it. Now, I believe when you look at that, it falls apart pretty quickly. I believe that actually when you look at it, she in fact hasn't accused any of the men of what she's accused the Tate brothers of. But what you do see is that there's a pattern where she was a teenager and there was grown men that engaged in sexual relationships with her while she was a teenager. And all of these men, I think the youngest was 34, up until the oldest in their mid-50s. And I think maybe the oldest one was Keith Fox. And so Keith Fox was a yoga teacher, and she was a yoga student. And she was a teenager. and her parents suspected that something was going on, so they hired a private eye, and he caught Keith Fox having sex with her, and took photos of it. There's, had photographic evidence of it, and he was convicted of having sex with her as a minor, but he was also convicted of having sex with another. So this guy's convicted. He lost his appeal. He's serving like a 26-year-long prison sentence for having sex with multiple minors. And yeah, Candace Owens, in this episode, she says, I'm going to protect the identity of this child, this guy who's had sex with children, by beeping his name. But yet in the episode, it's entirely dedicated to this alleged victim, where she names this alleged victim, over and over again. So she protects the identity of the man who was convicted of having sex with children, but yet names the child who he had sex with over and over again. I can't find anyone who can justify that. There is no justification for it, morally speaking. I believe the only real justification is because she wanted to hide the identity of Keith Fox. Because if people actually bothered to look into that case, they would realize that this kind of narrative of this alleged victim accusing all these other men of things that they didn't do would fall apart. Because this guy very, very clearly did do it, because he went to court and he was convicted. So this is the kind of just like horrible. This is the thing where Candace Owens, she goes on and on, beats her chest and gets on the soapbox about, Epstein, and how, the US administration is protecting Jeffrey Epstein and people who've had sex with children, where she, literally did that, literally protected the identity of a man who was convicted of having sex with children while broadcasting the name of the child who the grown man had sex with.
Yeah, it was incredible. The to lower herself to that, to attack someone who was a listed victim in an ongoing human trafficking case to help her friend. It's incredible. Now, Nathan, thank you for going through all that, and I think that gave my viewers a good idea of the kind of content that you've done and a bit of your story. As we're talking, I know we had our other guest, and we'll get to Just Me later. I'll talk to Just Me a bit later as well. But we had our other guest join the room, Mr. Crayons, aka CrayonMurders. And I've linked both Nathan's and Crayon's Twitter accounts in the description, so everyone give them a follow if you're not already as well. But Crayons, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, there he is. Good, man. Good. Good to
coming through loud enough. I'm doing a face reveal, but I don't see it on your stream. What's going on here?
We're
not showing our faces here. I built up the nerve here to put my face out here to the world, and you're not showing it on your stream. I'm a little bit disappointed.
I'm sorry. There's a bit of a technical difficulty here. We're going to do a big face reveal for Crayon.
Well, you guys.
He was going to reveal
can
his
look
identity.
at my sexy face then during the stream or in the behind the scenes.
Yeah, we're not winding up. We're not winding up Tate's lawyer at all. But
yeah, I want to show my face and give his entire legal team and the brothers stroke material, because we know that's what they really want to do.
Well, yeah, you are, and I mean, it's funny, the two of you. So Nathan had Tate kind of being forced to respond to video, and Candace having to fly to Romania to address it, and you've also been like public enemy number one. They hate like, even aside from this lawsuit and everything, I've always found that kind of funny, the way that you grind their gears for whatever reason. So do you want to, like, I guess like Nathan did, introduce yourself for some of my viewers who maybe aren't on Twitter or X and may not be aware of your work? Do you want to kind of describe how you came about this? And I know it's not quite the story that Gary the Numbers guy likes to tell, that you're children wish that Tate was their father, and you got angry. But do you want to talk about how you came into doing this and the kind of content that you've produced about the Tates, and particularly about the cases, is where you really shine, describing their court cases and court documents and things in a really digestible way?
Yeah, I think it's bizarre that they are so threatened by facts and actual information and somebody trying to explain what's happening with their court case. I think it's telling that disturbs them so much that I get regular death threats. I get regular threats of violence. I've lost count of how many accounts on X I've had terminated for sending me death threats of violence. I've had threats against my family. It's striking to me that facts and information and explanations would trigger people to that degree. I didn't know who this guy was until one of my youngest son said something stupid at dinner one night. Eating at dinner, my wife is asking him to do something, and he's like, "No, women are stupid. I'm not going to listen to women." I'm like, "Yo, what? Where did that come from?" And then he's like, "Oh, this guy." And he showed me that, these Andrew Tate videos. And he wasn't a fan. Yeah, they love to push this whole thing, like my son wants him to be his father, which is hilarious. But he had watched some of the videos, and he just picked up on some of the negative things. He was slowly getting sucked into that negative aspect, because at that time, all of the information that was coming out was misogynistic and fairly negative. He was getting sucked into that. That's what social media platforms do. They will reward your viewing behavior with more of the things that they know you're going to watch and interact with. And that's what was happening, and we didn't know it at the time. It was a brief thing. It happened very briefly. We had to do a course correction, set him down, explained what was going on with the internet and what some of these people were doing. And, course correction, handled it. It was short, and it moved on. And then this guy ends up, he gets raided and he gets into trouble and canceled. Like, this whole thing happened. And at this stage, I don't even remember. It's been so long. I don't remember who I spoke to first on X. Somebody sent me a message saying, "Hey, we're kind of talking about this case." It was parents mostly. And I got in a group, and then one thing led to another, and I started networking with people, and somebody knew how to get documents out of Romania. So we started looking at the documents, and then I started, trying to break the documents down, explaining them to people, explaining what was really going on, because I noticed that the message that brothers and their team and even their lawyers were putting out did not match in any way, shape, or form what the documents were saying coming out of Romania. And these were official court documents. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And the more I would dig, the more I realized that I believed that there was something very, very wrong happening, something possibly evil, based on the documents and some of the evidence that was released early on. I believe it was the January or February 2023 document, I believe it was the first time we saw actual case evidence. And it came in the form of chat logs that were extracted off of their devices. And these are verified chat logs. They have to go through a verification process. They have to use certain types of forensic software to extract that data. And when we're reading through those chats, I think that was the first time. I had a suspicion these guys were up to some stuff based on their videos, based on things that I've seen them say. You look at their tweet history, you look at their course material that they put out where they would teach guys how to, recruit women for OnlyFans and webcam. When you look at this stuff and you see the tweets that they put out, and you see Andrew himself calling himself a pimp, bragging about how he would take 100% of a woman's money. And you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe at first you're like, well, maybe this guy's just, talking smack. And then you see what's actually happening in Romania with the documents, and you're like, oh my. Then you see the chat messages that they're using as a part of the evidence early on. You're like, okay, so these guys are not just talking smack. Like, this is, according to the documents, this is actually how they're living their lives over there. And I didn't set out to be their public enemy number one. I was just trying to share information because I realized that there was like Nathan was talking about, with Candace Owens and Tucker and everything. There's obviously a giant, I believe there's a huge cover up taking place. I don't know if I don't know if people are getting paid. I don't know what the trade-off is or why everybody's doing it. I'm sure they all have their reasons, but I believe there's a massive cover-up and a massive whitewashing taking place of these guys, trying to reframe who they are, what they stand for, and what their image is. And when I saw everything happening, I don't know, it was just a natural instinct to want to do the right thing. In retrospect, I don't regret doing it because it was the right thing to do. People always say things like, you see videos of somebody getting attacked on a subway, and you're like, oh, look at these people just sitting around not doing anything while this person's getting attacked. They're a bunch of pussies. Why is nobody doing anything? This is the same thing. If I saw something that was happening and I had evidence of something that I believed was wrongdoing and it was some sort of a cover-up happening at scale, I believed it was the right thing to do. I believed that doing something, sharing that information, was the right move. So I did. And as the luck would have it, my account just picked up a lot of attention and picked up a lot of steam, and it kind of grew from there. And I don't remember MilkBar, Nathan. I don't remember which one of us reached out to who first, but we did that collaboration early on. I don't even remember how we got into contact. It's been so long.
Yeah, it's been. I remember you reaching out to me.
Reached out to you? Okay.
Yeah, and that was where it's like, oh, there's some people who are like, on this. And that was to me where I realized, like, oh, I'm so late to this, Yeah.
Yeah, it just comes down, at the end of the day, I would ask anyone, if you have any moral conscience whatsoever, you're going to do the right thing given the situation that you're in. I think everyone that they're suing that's part of this lawsuit, they did exactly that. And I think how to articulate this better. It's simply the right thing to do. I mean, that's the easiest way to say it. If you were to flip this for a second, everyone wants to release the Epstein files. Okay. If I were releasing the Epstein files, no one would care. Every single person in the world would be cheering it on. But because this is happening to guys who young men are looking up to, or people that might be getting paid by these guys, all of a sudden, we're bad people for sharing this information. But if it were about Epstein, then nobody would care. Everybody would cheer me on, including Tate fans, including the people who give me death threats and threats against my family. They would also cheer me on, or cheer us on, if this were about Epstein and we were releasing the Epstein files. And really quick here, I want to address something in the chat because I have this chat pop up open. So Raymond Parker says, not to be that guy, but surely because of your obvious bias against the Tate brothers, isn't it hard for people to take your content seriously? Oh, here's the thing. Tate fans think that I have a bias when I'm reporting facts. I don't like the guys. I've never hidden that. I think, I personally believe they are bad guys. I personally believe they did some shit. That's my personal opinion. When I'm reporting the facts speak for themselves. The problem is, it's not that I report the facts. The problem is you don't like the facts that I'm reporting. And you see the things that I report, and truth be told, there's been an army of it. because there's been so much come out between multiple cases. So when you're reporting this, you just don't like what the information is. My personal dislike for these guys doesn't change the information that's coming out. It doesn't change the documents. It doesn't change the facts. It doesn't change the circumstances. It doesn't change the number of alleged victims. It doesn't change the witness statements. It doesn't change the alleged victim statements. It doesn't change what the prosecutors say. All that stuff stays the same regardless of if I like these guys or not. I just wanted to clear that up because I get that a lot.
Can I ask you something, Crayons?
Yeah.
For me, I always thought it's hard to actually remember what things were like 2 years ago, especially on like Twitter, with people who were so in favor of the Tates, and how little was known about the criminal cases. It's actually quite astounding now how much has changed in the 2 years since then. But if you posted negatively about the Tates, you'd get a shitstorm of people, even from normies, because they just didn't know the facts. That's the thing, right? I mean, tell me, have you ever received a community note? Have you ever received a fact check on Twitter? And then compare that to the Tate brothers.
To my knowledge, I've never received a community note. And the flip side of that is my reporting has been used in community notes more times than I can remember. So no, I always welcome.
I believe your reporting's been using community notes to fact check the Tates, right?
Well, yeah, they've used my posts with links and information to official documents and official information to community note the Tate brothers. Yes. I mean, I think that speaks for itself. And really quick, I'm going to go back into the chat here because I want to get this stuff cleared up because sometimes I don't respond to all of my tweets. So you have this, the same person says, incorrect. You're not just reporting facts. We're calling fans tater tots, commenting on their appearance, mocking them, etc., which goes against, which does your work an injustice. All right, first of all, yes, Tate fans are tater tots. Every group has a name. Taylor Swifties, whatever. Tater tots. You can call yourself whatever you want. Those of us not in your group will call you tater tots. If you take offense with that, then you should probably follow somebody else. My work, look, I don't do this for a living. So if you don't like and I'm putting my work in quotes here, if you don't like it, don't read my tweets. If I mock you, it's because I think you're stupid. It's because you said something stupid. It's because I've tried to explain something to you for years on end, and you still don't understand something very basic. That's usually why you get mocked. People tater tots send me death threats. They threaten my family. You come in and you call me names. Of course you're going to get mocked. Of course you're going to get mocked. Then another gentleman says, here, where did it go? It says, reporting one side equals a bias, FYI. Again, I report all sides when I can confirm the information. You don't like what I've reported because it doesn't favor your bias. People say, well, why don't you show the Tate's arguments? Because until they won their appeal, which I reported on fairly, until they won their appeal, they lost 100% of their arguments. Not 99%. They lost 100% of their arguments in court until they finally won their appeal to not go to trial. I've reported everything that can be confirmed. That's not a bias. It's not one side. It's just that Tate's side has been denied by judges over and over and over again as unfounded. Judges use the word unfounded. So I'm not going to report misinformation and push it out as something that's true. I'm not going to report on unfounded claims. The judge has dismissed them as unfounded. This argument that is dismissed as unfounded is not something I'm going to report on unless it's to acknowledge that it's been dismissed as unfounded.
Hey, Crayons.
Back to the point is you don't like the information. Yes.
A good example in the chat, and we won't let them derail us for too long, but answering some of these things can be good. But we got 5SF, just a bit higher in the chat, and I've covered this on a lot of my videos. You've of course covered this, but you're, I think, the GOAT at explaining these things in a really easy to understand way. So maybe someone might be listening to this who hasn't seen myself or yourself explain this before, but he said, why not mention the documents that follow what his team says? And the two examples he gives are the defense from the girls, so as in the girls defending him, saying they're not victims, I'm assuming. And he mentions contradictions, and I believe he's talking about like the chat messages that the Tates posted that look like alleged victims in the cases are planning to set them up or lie to the police.
Let me take this for a second, because I know exactly what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the problem, and this is where a lot of their fans and the people who follow them get misled with the information that's coming out. When the brothers go out publicly and say, this girl said this girl said that, we have the documents, we have the proof, it's an NGO, whatever, they don't produce proof of that. They don't give you a full document. They don't even give you a full page of a document. What they've released to date are a couple of mismatched snippets of a conversation. That's all they've released. Actual documents, the full documents, tell a completely different story. So when you're saying, why don't you mention the documents that they talk about? Because they don't exist. Those documents don't exist. If you cherry pick certain parts of a conversation and put them together on a different piece of paper and release them to the world and say, haha, look at this, that's disinformation. I'm interested in facts. I'm interested in verified information. I'm not interested in chopped up information. So again, they can release those documents. If they want to make the claims that these things happen, they can release those documents because they don't exist. I've released everything that I could publicly release. I've been able to redact up to this point. So go ask them to release them. If they make the claim, they can release them. The fact that they're not releasing those documents should tell you everything that you need to know. No, it's not based on documents that you've seen.
Okay,
this is going nowhere.
This
is the problem. This is why tater tots get mocked.
Yeah,
this is why tater tots get mocked.
Yeah. We answered his question, and he'll try to keep us going for the rest of the stream, which we won't do. Okay, let's and a reminder if anyone who's joined us.
Really quick, one more thing.
Yeah, go on.
One more thing here. I'm gonna take this. These documents do exist, they say. Would you like me to send them to you? No, because I get the documents from Romania. So if you want to have somebody in Romania that's part of the court, or I can download them from the court website so I know they're legit, then I'll get them. Somebody just sending me random documents, that's not helpful, because I've already seen how that side manipulates documents. I've already seen it. Different propaganda accounts have already been caught manipulating documents. So I need to get them from the website or from a reliable source. Period. All right, let's move on.
Absolutely. So now, for those who may have joined the stream partway through, so Andrew and Tate are suing everyone you're hearing speak. Myself, Crayons, Nathan Livingstone, Just Me, and a number of others, for what we have said about them on social media, and a number of us are crowdfunding our legal defense. So if you'd like to make a donation, the link is up in the pinned comment and in the description. And if you are unable to help financially, share on your social medias. Go on, Crowns.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a bit of a delay here. I was going to ask if you guys went over all of the cases, civil and criminal, that are pending. for these guys yet.
We haven't, no. And I actually asked you before the stream, because again, Crayons, and for anyone who, and there's not been much in the way of like case news for a while, but Crayons, I think, is the GOAT at breaking down this breaking news, court documents, charges, and I would say, and not in a way of conspiring in a conspiracy to say mean things about the Tates, but just as helpful for my content. His account has been really helpful as far as me being able to fact check things or find things I want to show on screen in a video from court documents. So yeah, Crayons, if you want to explain, because a lot of people listening might not quite understand what's happening with the Tates cases, particularly with the way that they carry on social media and on Piers Morgan's show. So have their cases been dismissed, as they've said many times? Fallen by the wayside is Andrew's favourite new phrase. He was saying on Piers Morgan that all these cases are falling by the wayside. The investigations in the US are falling by the wayside. I just wanted Crayons to kind of explain this for anyone who doesn't quite understand how many cases and what's really going on here, because you're the GOAT, like I said. So go take it away, GOAT.
As of today, nothing has been dropped. No charges have been dropped. Nothing has been dropped. There is still case number 1 in Romania. The brothers have been charged with human trafficking. Andrew has been charged with rape. Tristan has been charged with incitement to violence. And they've both been charged with forming an organized criminal group. That is case number 1. Now, that case went through the process called the preliminary chamber, which was a pre-trial to ensure that everything was done correctly so it could move to trial. Preliminary chamber, after I believe it was like 6 or 7 months, determined everything was fine and it could move to trial. For their rights, the brothers then appealed that decision, so the case went before 2 judges. And those judges found a few procedural issues and a couple of irregularities. It gave DCOT 5 days to fix those problems. And DCOT was not able to fix those problems because they could not go back in time. They did not possess a time machine. In an indictment in Romania, if anything is wrong with the indictment, if it can't be corrected, it all has to be returned. It's an all or nothing deal. You can't say, well, we can fix these things, but we can't fix that thing, so we'll just move on without that. We'll take this out. It's all or nothing in Romania. So there was one particular thing in the indictment that was for, I believe what the wording is, his right to a defense for a particular alleged victim was violated. What that means is that the information regarding this particular victim, they didn't have enough time to build a defense against this particular victim, alleged victim. As such, it cannot go back in time to fix that because it already happened. The only way you can fix that is by giving them enough time to build a defense. But you don't have enough time to fix. You can't fix that in 5 days. You don't have a time machine. So it's an all or nothing situation. After the 5 days, the case went back to prosecutors. It's back in the investigation stage right now. The charges still stand. They've all been charged. Now they're waiting for the next indictment, which should come. Should come. So that's case number 1. Case number 2, forming an organized criminal group. This is for Andrew. Forming an organized criminal group, human trafficking in continuous form, trafficking in minors, sexual intercourse with a minor. This alleged victim was 15 years old. And the trafficking in minor, the alleged victim was 17 years old. Influencing statements, which is essentially witness tampering, and money laundering in continuous form. Tristan has forming an organized criminal group, human trafficking in continuous form, influencing statements, and money laundering in continuous form. There's also a tax fraud finding in Romania as well, where the NAF found undeclared income for around $6 million. So they're going to have to pay a $6 million fine plus penalties, or if DCOT can connect that to organized crime or money laundering, then that can turn into an actual charge. In addition to that, and by the way, let me back up here for a second. Case number 1, there are 7 alleged victims. Case number 2 are 35 alleged victims. Documents show there are 12 other women who are being investigated who could end up being added to this case as well. Then there's a UK criminal case, both brothers, for human trafficking, rape, actual bodily harm, controlling prostitution, which is pimping. This is for both brothers, and this is the case that the UK requested extradition for. Requested extradition, Romania agreed, but they're not going to extradite them until they conclude whatever's going to happen in Romania. So if they are acquitted in Romania, then they will be arrested again and extradited to the UK. Or if they are convicted and sentenced to prison in Romania, when they finish their sentence, they will be arrested and extradited to the UK. Contrary to popular belief, in the UK requests extradition, it means they are trial ready. They're not extraditing them to interview them or to investigate. They are trial ready. The media has reported that there are more than 20 offenses in that particular case. There's also a UK civil case for an alleged rape with Andrew, where 4 women have alleged that Andrew raped and sexually assaulted them. That is for Andrew only. That goes to trial next year. There is a U.S. lawsuit filed by Bree Stern, his ex-girlfriend. She's alleging sexual assault and battery, gender violence, negligence, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. There's a U.S. countersuit by Jane Doe against the brothers for violation of the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, conspiracy to violate the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, Florida civil remedy for criminal practices, civil conspiracy under Florida law, defamation and defamation per se, malicious prosecution, intentional infliction of emotional distress. They had a UK tax evasion case, that was a civil case, and they lost that case. So the only case that's been to trial so far is for tax evasion, and they lost. So an ongoing investigation in the U.S. by the Department of Justice for the Southern District of New York. And there's an ongoing investigation in the state of Florida. However, there are unconfirmed rumors coming from the Tate camp that this investigation in Florida will be closed. But at this time, I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen any documents to substantiate this claim. If that happens, obviously I'll report on it. What Florida was doing is trying to determine if any crimes were committed in the state of Florida. And I believe, based on everything that I've seen, based on everything that I've heard, they were looking to see if crimes had to do with financial or possible attempted trafficking of a Florida resident. So if they shut that down, then that means that they don't believe no crime was committed in Florida. Now, let's see here. Tates are suing Bree Stern. Andrew is specifically suing Bree Stern. He did a countersuit against her. The brothers are suing Jane Doe, who's the American alleged victim, and her parents. They tried suing the UK and Moldovan alleged victim from the Romanian case, but the judge dismissed that based on jurisdiction. They are suing Meta and TikTok, and they are suing, I believe, 13 Twitter users, which we are part of. Most of these claims are based on claims of defamation and conspiracy. I think that's everything. Did I forget anything?
I just want to point out that Lauren Southern came out earlier this year alleging that Andrew Tate raped her. She hasn't officially launched any civil action, but she has described it, and what did she say? She said that what was it? She said that she went to a hospital. I can't remember what her official story was with that. But she also added to that recently with Tommy Robinson. I think, what was it, Gadget? You covered this well.
Yeah. So that was a whole thing because Tommy Robinson and Andrew Tate are good friends, old friends from Luton in England, and so the allegation, so Lauren Southern and a couple of other producers traveled with Tommy Robinson in 2018, so before Tate was famous and anyone really knew who he was. They traveled to Bucharest to meet with the Tates for what they told was an opportunity to for the Tates to invest in a media company. Now one thing is we can see in the leaked War Room group chats, Tate talking with the War Room, saying, "I was never going to invest. Pimps don't give money to women," in different words. So there's that. But basically on this trip, Lauren alleges that she was violently sexually essayed, you could say, by Tate in a very similar method to what we see with unconsensual strangulation, the same exact kind of allegations that we've seen from women in the UK and some of the women in the Romanian case. But when Lauren came out with these allegations in June, I believe it was, Tommy Robinson came out and said, "I was there, she's lying. I saw her kiss him the next morning. She came in the car and was texting him the next morning. And then she went back to see him to Romania. She went back to see him. So she's lying." Which is crazy for a number of reasons, because even if these things are true, it doesn't mean an assault didn't happen. But the thing is, Lauren has evidence that Tommy is lying to protect Tate. So her travel documents show that she's only been to Romania and left Romania once in 2018, whereas Tommy is accusing her of lying and making up these allegations because on the basis that she has supposedly traveled back. And I can say that I've reviewed a stat deck that her lawyer signed confirming that they've assessed her travel documents, and which is essentially them saying under oath that they have confirmed that she has only traveled to Romania and back once. So we've got pretty strong evidence that Tommy Robinson has lied to protect Andrew Tate, his old friend. But that is another. Yeah, so that is another. Again, she hasn't launched any legal action against Tate. One interesting thing about that is that Tate's lawyer, Joseph McBride, said that when she came out with this in June, that she would be suing her, that they'll be filing legal action, that it was all lies, it was outrageous, she was after a payday. And there's been no such lawsuit filed against Lauren. She's just last month, I believe it was, produced a video saying, calling Joseph McBride out, saying, "Why aren't you suing me? Come on, so you said you're going to sue me, do it." And there's been nothing. So whether he does, he's filing all these lawsuits, who knows? But that's something that's interesting. So that is another allegation, although it's not a case of yet. Crowns, did you have any? I think you did. I don't think you've got any as far as actual cases go.
Yeah, I think I got everything. There's a lot, and it's hard to keep track of because all these things are in different stages. And essentially everything criminally, criminal charges in the UK, that's going to be on hold based on the current agreement that they have. Yeah, and we don't know what's going to pan out in the US. We have no idea. The Department of Justice could decide to prosecute. They could decide not to prosecute. Florida could decide to close the investigation. Nobody has any idea what's actually going to happen in the U.S. But we do know that the agreement that Romania and the UK has means that Romania gets a crack at them first. However long that's going to take, based on the current agreement, UK is going to have to wait. Now, I suspect if something were to happen where if this were to get prolonged or something like that, the UK they don't have to abide by this agreement. They have a current agreement, but they can try to change that as well. So we'll see. I like, it's difficult to predict something like this. And there's so many moving parts. There's so many variables. Early on, it was just one case. It was fairly easy to predict what was going to happen to a degree. But at this stage, there's just so much going on. There's so many players. I mean, you have the United States, you have the UK, you have Romania, you have civil cases, you have criminal cases. And that's what we know of. That's just what we know about. I mean, there could be other things going on that we're not aware of. So we'll see. So let's move on to Vanessa, who's been waiting patiently.
Yes. So we've got where are we? Yeah, we got as far as on Twitter, you're known as Just Me. So Just Me is another person named in the lawsuit who the Tates are suing, and she's spoken really well and given good insights in some of our Twitter spaces. And she's Lost Girl in the chat, if anyone's seeing her in the chat and wants to say hello. But one thing, so what I find very interesting about, and this is just my opinion, I'm not speaking for anyone else, but the fact that you're in this lawsuit, Just Me, that you're, so one, that you have, I guess, a history with people in Tate's circle, in his war room circle, but also, I was just trying to look up on Twitter and trying to remind myself how many followers you have, because I find this an interesting part of this as well. There you go, you have 56 followers on Twitter. So this is something that I've found interesting, that, for example, CoffeeZilla put out a video about Andrew Tate's crypto scams, he said in his video. Ben Shapiro has put out a video calling Tate a grifter and a fraud and all these things. And Tate has spoken about them and wasn't happy about them. But Just Me, with your 56 followers, has been included in this lawsuit, in this defamation lawsuit, that they say, I don't know, they anyway, so are you there, Just Me? Are you able to kind of give everyone a bit of an idea of kind of how you've come into this group and your story and what you make of being included in this? Because I was surprised to see them come after you like this.
Well, I wasn't surprised, but yeah, first I'd like to just say thank you to everybody who's here listening. And I also want to thank the 3 gentlemen that I'm in this stream with, because as Crayon touched on, once you come across this stuff, it is just the right thing to do. It's morally and ethically something that you should have an opinion on. Being neutral isn't necessarily a position, so to speak, that I feel is appropriate in this situation. But then again, my involvement in it is different. And as far as my followers go, I will say I had almost 500 followers when the lawsuit dropped. Overnight, I went up to approximately 800, and I purged myself after that for several reasons. Number one, most of the new followers were either bots or haters. Number two, in my time being here, I had actually developed some good relationships with people who homestead and stuff like that. And once the lawsuit dropped, I did not want them to endure what was happening coming into their feed. So I bid my goodbyes and apologized and let them all go. And I purged myself down. So yeah, I do only have about 56 followers right now. But I'm here for much different reasons than many of the other people. I actually had the displeasure of spending almost 3 years somewhat underneath this organization, 2 of which I had no idea what was going on. The last year I was finding things out, figuring things out, trying to get out and away, and then trying to make it happen without having some of the threats that were being levied at me come true. What happened to me was I sold an antique typewriter to a gentleman out of a lovely little business I have on my homestead. And he came out to my home, bought the typewriter, walked around my shop, engaged in some conversation, which I can now tell you were some very qualifying questions. Got one of my business cards and left. Immediately started texting me, approaching me, and some things like that. And after about 2 weeks, I did break down and have what I guess would be a date with him. And after that, I was taken on a horrific 2-year ride of having this lover boy method used on me, which, if you ask me, is just a hyper intensive narcissistic abuse program. It follows narcissistic abuse to a T, only it's very honed, methodical, and you're not just having it enacted on you by one man. You come to discover that there is an entire army of men advising that man in the background. My guy actually had a girlfriend when he linked up with me, and it's been further shown in some of the Great Hall chat logs I've been able to access that there was a third woman in the background as well. I can tell you that the first woman actually did get a conviction on him over domestic violence. Right at the beginning of our relationship, he was charged. I was lied to about all of that and told it was an ex-wife he had recently divorced, which it was not. I was told that the group that he was involved in when it was started to be introduced to me was just a group of men who were doing real estate and financial things and networking. I had absolutely no idea of all the other things going on in the background as he ran off to these different summits and things like that. As far as abuse is concerned, I don't want to go into too many gory details, but I have a plethora of pictures of the sexual abuse that I suffered towards the end. I actually ended up with this man living in my home by accident by allowing him to stay here for a few days, and he refused to leave. I ended up having to send my son 1,000 miles away to his father's house and give him custody to protect him while I was desperately trying to figure out how to get him gone. I have tons of audio recordings that I have shared on my Twitter account over the last couple years where I was threatened that the war room would shoot my dog, kill my neighbor who was a sheriff, destroy my friends, put pornography on my business clients' computers at my job, that my brother, a special forces military vet, would be targeted. I don't know what threats weren't levied at me, many more that I didn't record. So, I don't share those, only the ones I have proof. I finally was able to force him out of my home in February of 22. And yet it still took me until October of 22 to get completely gone from his things and a cat I had been left with to try to sever the last bit of hovering ties he had left in place, as narcissists are famous to do. Shortly after that, obviously, in December, the Tates were arrested. And at that point, I had already been doing some of my own investigation as I was trying to repair what had been mentally done to me. So I had a pretty good grip on what these men were up to, in addition to things that were divulged to me during the relationship. And in January of 23, I came out on Twitter of all places, because as Crayon said, you're in this, it's not a game. It's not something you're just dabbling in. It's not something you stay neutral about or try to see both sides on. Even if I hadn't gone through all of this or been involved in it, and I didn't know it was happening. Going back and getting all of the pieces of the puzzles in place at that point, my God, my heart bleeds for these women who went through far worse than me. I didn't consent to doing porn, even though I was pushed to do it. But I have the fear I was put out non-consensually, and I'm struggling to figure out how to find out if that occurred. I was pressured to try to commit a crime involving guns that I refused to commit, which is what precipitated all of the threats upon myself, my family, and my children. It's not a joke. None of this is a joke. Being neutral isn't a stance in my eyes, but I have my reasons. You have to get out there and do your research and have yours. And to the gentlemen in the conversation who've been doing nothing but railing these good men who are here today standing up for women who can't speak, I'm lucky. I can. I'm blessed. I can come out here and put everything I have at risk to defend these poor women who can't stand up, who can't tell you their stories right now. Just like the Epstein girls who had to sit on all of their information for decades. At some point, you will have to wake up and understand that there are people in this world that deceive you to hide what they're doing. Do your research, find the viable information, and stop listening to these influencers who are doing nothing but padding their pockets with your affection.
Yeah, that's solid. And I think, and I can't speak for all of them, obviously, but I think a lot of the diehard fans, and there's multiple journalists and outlets have written articles about this. I think when you have a situation where you have a generation of young men who are lacking male role models, you can get sucked into things like this. They don't know necessarily had somebody teach them, okay, these are the red flags. This is bad. Things are bad. These things are good. These are people you want to disassociate with. If you don't have somebody in your life, a father, an uncle, an older brother, somebody who's really looked out for you, church leader, whatever it is, it's easy to get sucked up into some of this stuff. With these influencers who are just pushing a load of shit on these young men. And the irony is, again, not all of the influencers, but the majority of them are not married, don't have functional families. A lot of them don't even have children, or if they do have children, the children don't live with them. A lot of these influencers who are trying to lure these young men in they're in broken families, if they have any family at all. And they're luring these young men in and trying to push their ideology upon them. It's like anything else. If you're going to learn something from someone, you need to learn from people who are doing the thing. If you're going to learn how to invest in stocks, you're not going to learn from someone who just loses money or doesn't invest in the stock market. You're going to learn by somebody who is a proven winner, a consistent winner, somebody who knows what they're talking about. Same thing about masculinity or how to be a man, how to have a family. You need to get influenced by someone who actually does those things, not by somebody who doesn't know how, not by broken men who can't hold a relationship or who doesn't know what a loving relationship actually looks like. So I think that's important. And I don't want to harp on this, but I think a lot of it, comes down to that. And I've said it before. I think a lot of their fan base, they just don't have positive male role models in their life to set them straight, to let them know that they're going down the wrong path.
Yeah, I mean, like you, I've spoken to and a lot of obviously Tate fans, but a lot of former Tate fans who, in my view, have seen the light and I guess got on a better path. And none of them are in a good place, and they might be quick to judge, but it's fair. You won't find many people that are hardcore Andrew Tate followers, young boys who are hardcore Andrew Tate followers who have a good home, have a good father or a father that's around, have much money in their household. A lot of them are in poverty, I've spoken to. And this is something that I blame a lot more on the Tates than any of the young lads, even if they might come in my chat and say some not nice things, some of them. It's in my opinion, it's very kind of deliberate, the kind of people the kind of young lads that the Tates are going after. And that's a thing too, is like, so the Tates, of all the people on social media who they say have defamed them and they claim have been trying to spread lies about them, they go after just me slash Lost Girl in the chat, who has 50 odd followers, and before you did your purge you had a few hundred maybe. So this is who they're going after. So I'm going to speak for myself only. In my opinion, it's very cowardly. And something I've said a lot, and I've said whenever I've been lucky to get a bit of, I don't know, attention or coverage. When I was on 60 Minutes, I said that this story isn't about, in my view, isn't about me or Crayons or Nathan Livingstone. It's about the women who have the Tates have allegedly hurt who can't speak out. We've seen this happen. We've seen what happens with the ones that have been doxxed, or the ones that have come out and spoken. The couple that have the response that they've gotten. So just, and I know I'm referring to Lost Girl as just me because that's who the name I'm used to using on Twitter. Was there anything else that you wanted to add before I move on to the next thing? Was there anything more that you wanted to say and wanted to express and maybe wanted to get across to the audience?
I don't know. I would just say to anybody listening who was affected by these men, I pray for you every night. I pray for you to find your way through it. It's been almost 3 years for me, and I still struggle with many of the after effects, especially because of everything coming to light now. But every day I get better, and every day I get stronger. And I know that you will too. And I pray for all of you that someday, somehow, this will come to some sort of an end and not turn into an Epstein 2.0 situation. But we just have to have faith in the men and women who are involved in investigations, prosecutors, court systems. I know that they tend to fail women drastically, as my research has proven. But there is power in prayer, girls. And if we pray hard, and we have wonderful people like Gadget and MilkBar and Crayons and all the other many influencers and people out on social media combating the propaganda and the lies, that there will be a righteous and a truthful conclusion to this, no matter what it might be. But I just hope everyone stays blessed out there. It's a bit of a crazy world right now.
It is a crazy world. I'm reading through the chat here and just made me think about something here that I like to bring this up because it's an important distinction to criminal cases, which would be the Romanian cases specifically that I'm talking about here. Because brothers love to use the term accusers. Our accusers are in this situation because of our accusers. And that's not true. In a criminal case, specifically the Romanian case, the state is the accuser. Romania is the accuser. Specifically in this case, it's DCOT. It's the law enforcement agency that handles human trafficking, drug trafficking, terrorism, etc. They are the accusers. And the way it works is all of the alleged victims in the case, they didn't go to the police and ask for help. This isn't a situation because they say, oh, believe all women, believe all. That's not this situation. No one called the police and said, help us. Help us, help us, help us. What happened was one woman was having a conversation with someone and said, I believe these guys are trafficking women. We're going to escape. The person she was talking to called the U.S. Embassy. The embassy contacted Romanian authorities. The Romanian authorities raided the brothers' compound. Through a very lengthy investigation that includes witnesses, data extracted off of all their devices and computers, they identified what they believe are additional victims of human trafficking. So when you have 35 or 40 alleged victims in Romania, these are not women who went to the police and said, help us. These are women that DCOT found evidence of what they believe is their exploitation. So if they find evidence that leads them to believe that this particular woman was exploited, they will add them to the case as a possible human trafficking victim. It doesn't matter if that woman comes forward and says, well, I didn't feel forced, or they never did anything bad to me, or whatever she might say. What matters is, and the reason why they're part of the case, is because DCOT found evidence that led them to believe that they are victims of human trafficking. That's why they get added to the case. That's why they don't get removed from the case. If evidence did not exist, those women would not be part of the case. But DCOT believes that they are, that there were some level of exploitation, so they added him to the case. Documents very clearly show this, and they break down a per alleged victim basis why each one of them was added to the case. So when you have a situation where they repeatedly say our accusers, and by the way, I think it's really funny that they keep changing it. At first it's an American accuser, it's NGOs, it's the Biden crime family, it's evil prosecute. I have a list that I keep updating. I think there's like 15 or 20 different people they blamed their legal situation on now. But it's not because of an accuser. It's not because women went to the police and said, hey, help us. DCOT, who was the organization responsible for prosecuting for trafficking cases, they believe they found evidence that these women were exploited. That's why they're part of the case. Now, I want to go a little bit further here. I want to talk about defamation a little bit because we're primarily being sued for defamation per se, and civil conspiracy. They're alleging that there was a grand conspiracy where everyone got together and made a plan to defame them. Let's talk about that just briefly. For defamation specifically, it means that a false statement of fact was made about them. And it means that the statement was published. And it means that the statement caused actual harm to their reputation. So under normal defamation rules, that's what they have to prove. However, because they are celebrities and public figures, and they've referred to this themselves in their own filings, it's a much higher standard. And that standard is called actual malice. And actual malice requires that they have to prove the people they are suing knew that the statement was false or acted with reckless disregard for whether it was true or false when they said it. If you have a situation where people are reading case documents that have verified evidence in the form of chat messages extracted off of their devices, where they talk about these things, and you have actual videos where they call themselves pimps and how they take women's money and how they've, according to Andrew in the video, he got a woman drunk and put her on webcam, and how he uses another woman and he calls her his bottom bitch to help talk these other girls into doing camp. When you have these videos and these course materials talking about how they recruit and, as he says, retain, because that's part of the pimp game, he says, you have the videos plus the evidence, there's no universe they're ever going to be able to prove we thought this information was false. So when you see us say things like, this is a ridiculous lawsuit, exactly that, because they have to prove that what we said was said with actual malice. And I can tell you, balls to bones, I believe the evidence that I've read in the case. I believe the witness statements. I believe the alleged victim statements. I believe their course material when they told people this is how they recruit women. This is how they retain women. These are the methods they use. They don't give them access to their passwords, whatever. I believe all of that stuff to be true. I wish them the best of luck proving actual malice. And also, truth is an absolute defense against defamation. Courts have repeatedly said that a statement cannot be made with actual malice when it's based on a reasonable interpretation of available evidence. You're allowed to have opinions based on things. You're allowed to have an opinion on anything. And if that opinion is based on interpretation of available evidence, it's not going to be defamation. It's certainly not going to be actual malice. I just want to throw that in there because so many of his fans, and again, one person said before, why do you call us tater tots and why do you mock us? Because you have access to the same information that I have access to. I have access to the same information. And for reasons unknown, you're incapable of looking this information up or reading the information if it's given to you and understanding it even at a kindergarten level. People who are like, oh, you're so cooked, you're going to be paying him for the rest of your life. Number one, most of us don't even live in the United States, so you're not even going to be able to enforce a judgment should they win but they're not going to win. But number two, no one was defamed. No one was defamed, and they're not going to be able to meet the bar of actual malice. I just wanted to squeeze that in there.
Yes, I mean, it's important to point that out that, as you said, I'm very confident that in what I've posted, and in the examples of defamation that they've listed against me. Like, for example, one is a post I made that had a caption saying, Andrew Tate admits to being a pimp who exploits women and takes all their money. And the video that's attached to the tweet is a video of Andrew, old video, back in his, well before he was famous, saying, so back when I was in the pimp game, I used to make girls do things I didn't want to do and take all their money. For word, he said those things. So I'm very confident. I believe that we and I have been responsible in what we've said. When I state opinions, I'll make it clear that it's an opinion. And one thing you touched on that is kind of good timing for me to bring up, a video that I had lined up to play. So you mentioned all the people that are the organizations and people and governments that both Tate brothers have blamed for their legal troubles and their cases and their arrest in the first place. Well, if I could just get this thing to load, my browser's acting up here. What's going on? Okay, I had a video.
While you're queuing that up, I'm going to answer something here in the chat. So Dwayne says, I suspect most lawsuits will be dropped before the discovery process. It's possible. It's possible. It depends. A lot of judges will often let cases proceed through motions and discovery and even go to a hearing, so both sides can put their go on record completely. So my opinion is on this. I think they're going to. We believe that they filed a procedurally defective lawsuit. So we have we filed motions against their filing. So they didn't serve. As everyone in here knows, you need to be served. You need to be. So if you're in a lawsuit, you need to be served. I think with the exception of one person, they filed with the Secretary of State with what's called substitute service. They were given, I believe, 120 days to serve everyone properly. And keep in mind, most people are outside of the United States, and they couldn't do that, so they requested more time. And then even with the requested time, they still couldn't do it. So they served, or they filed with the Secretary of State, who accepts it automatically. And they've stated that people are purposefully concealing their whereabouts. They filed with the Secretary of State, stating that they couldn't find people, that they've looked online. Well, the problem with that is if you were, and Florida is very strict on this, you can't just say, trust me, bro, we looked. Trust me, bro, we searched online and couldn't find them. You have to actually show evidence. When did you look? Where did you look? What date? What time? Did you run skip traces? Who did you hire? Did you hire a private detective? Where did they look? What was their last known address? Like, you have to show actual evidence that you did your due diligence. Trust me, bro, doesn't cut it. So they filed with the Secretary of State based on what we believe is a trust me, bro, because they didn't, in any of the affidavits, I think maybe 2 affidavits, and again, this is for people in the U.S. I think there were 2 people or 3 people they did provide some evidence on, but the people outside of the U.S., it's basically, trust me, bro, we looked online, we couldn't find anything. So he served with the Secretary of State. So we believe that's defective. And you have jurisdictional issues as well. So another argument is, how does Florida have jurisdiction? Hold on here. How does Florida have jurisdiction over people who live outside of Florida or outside of the United States when the plaintiffs don't even live inside the United States? How are they choosing Florida for that? How is Florida the proper venue for this? And their argument is, they're using what's called the long arm statute. And the argument is because people in Florida we're able to read your tweets. And that doesn't fly either. So in order for Florida to claim jurisdiction over people, they need to prove that everybody has minimal contacts in Florida. Maybe you have a business there, you have investments there, or something like that. And nobody has that. So there's no minimal contacts in Florida. So they're going to have their hands full when it comes to jurisdiction as well. They're going to have to prove why Florida is the proper venue to sue people who don't live in Florida with a plaintiff who also doesn't live in Florida. And we've heard through Zoom calls, I've been part of Zoom calls where I've heard them in their other cases where they're suing people. And the same judge has asked their lawyer, why are you bringing this to my courtroom? Why are you filing this in my courtroom? One of the Romanian alleged victims that the Romanian prosecutors claim was taken to Romania by Tate's people. She mysteriously ended up hiring Tate's U.S. lawyer and sued Jane Doe in Florida for various allegations. And that case appears to be on its last leg, so we'll see what's going to happen in the next hearing. But the judge asked their lawyer, why are you bringing this? She's Romanian. She's Romanian. She's never been to the U.S. Why are you suing in Florida? All kinds of weird things like this. So we'll see. But, we believe that it's a defective lawsuit. We have filed motions, and a group of us are using the same lawyer. I've seen a couple of people mention, like, oh, you're filing so many motions. Yeah, because it's a motion for each defendant. A lot of us got together and we're using the same lawyer. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. Let people know what defamation is, what the actual standard of actual malice is. I know it's going to be difficult. There could be jurisdictional issues. I believe the judge is going to let this go to a certain point to get all of the information, as he should. In a situation like this, I think it's fair for a judge to say, okay, let me see all of the information before I make a decision. I think that's the responsible thing to do, and I think that's what he's going to do. But we are filing some motions. We believe it's a defective lawsuit, and there's going to be some jurisdictional issues, I believe. Go ahead, Gadget. You get that queued up?
Thank you, Crayon.
Gadget, can I say something really quick about what I saw in the chat?
Yeah, sure. I can't see the chat at the moment, and it's kind of frozen on me. But yeah, go on.
Someone said something about the fact that we're also being sued for sharing the Crowd Justice Fund for the UK girls. And I just wanted to say that, yeah, that is part of the law, the part of the ridiculous lawsuit in my eyes. Because, yeah,
That's
I do
hilarious.
share a lot, but I actually donate to it profusely and have for 3 years now. They were at about 75,000 the last time I donated. I think it's grown a little from there, but I highly recommend that anybody who can spare even $5 donate to those girls. The attorney involved in that case is also involved in this lawsuit. He's done a lot of great work. He donates some of his time. He's doing a lot of outreach work as well. So that money goes to a wonderful cause for 4 ladies who, came forward many years ago to try to stop what was about to happen, and they weren't listened to. They were ignored. And even now, CPS has declined to criminally prosecute their cases. So the civil case is their only avenue for any kind of justice to what happened to them. And we've all seen some of their videos and heard their stories and what their experiences were. So it's a very important fund, and I will keep sharing it and donating to it, even though I'm literally being sued over it. But please, if you have $5 to spare, the girls appreciate that in your prayers.
Yeah, and that's absurd beyond belief. The fact that they are claiming it's somehow defamatory to share a link to a fundraising campaign where women they're going to trial next year. There's a trial next year for a civil lawsuit against Andrew, and they're claiming it's defamatory to share a link to that. Like, that's absurd. That doesn't even meet the minimum definition of defamation. Forget actual malice. It's not even defamation in any way, shape, or form. So it's just absurd. And, another thing that they're doing, and this is a reason why, speaking of fundraisers, that's why we are raising money too, It's because it's a group of people. There's a group of people fighting back against this. And the problem is that lawyers charge by the hour. Good lawyers charge very expensively by the hour. And they are filing exhibits with hundreds of pages. My exhibit file alone, I think, is over 200 pages. The lawyer has to read through all of that. And they're doing some really interesting things when they're filing these exhibits. So as a lot of you who follow me know, when I share a document or a snippet out of a document, I will explain what's going on. Okay, the prosecutor said this is what's happening, this is what this means. So they are taking screenshots of posts that I've made where I actually post the document, or a snippet out of the document, and then I'll explain what the document says, or I'll paraphrase what the prosecutor says. Or in some cases, I actually just write what the prosecutor says in the tweet to explain that snippet. They screenshot that. They're blacking out the document completely so you cannot see the document. So it looks like I'm just making that up and making a statement myself. And they're filing hundreds of pages of this stuff. And lawyers have to read every single page of this stuff. Mine alone is, I believe, over 200 pages. So that's the sort of thing that we're up against. We believe, and I'll speak for myself here, I believe, and you hear them talk about lawfare a lot. This, in my opinion, is lawfare. When you are filing documents and purposefully hiding the actual document that I'm referring to, blacking it out completely to make it look like I'm saying something that's unrelated and completely out of context. That's what we're up against. And Gadget, I don't know if you played the video already. Andrew has a video where he talks about why he sues people in the US. He said he sues people in the US because they have to respond and that he will keep them in court forever. I believe he said something like he'll spend $1 million so they'll have to show up in court like once a month for the rest of their life. He talks about doing this sort of thing. So that's why we're raising money, because we're not up against a fair fight. We're not up against a fair lawsuit. We're up against guys with a ridiculous amount of money who have admitted to filing lawsuits in the US and just to keep people in court because they can. Gadget, if you can get that queued up as well. A fantastic donation just came in from the lies my lover boy told me. $200. Thank you so much. It says, as a fellow survivor, we can confirm from experience that Crayons, Gadget, and others in Team Matrix know what they're talking about. Frivolous lawsuits are a known tactic to silence victims and those advocating for us. LBL supports Team Matrix. Thank you. Thank you so much. That is going directly to the legal fund. This is going to be an expensive lawsuit. We've already spent a substantial amount of money. This is going to be expensive. And with your help, we continue to fight this. I believe this is a true fight against good versus evil, against the truth, the truth versus people trying to silence the truth. It is free speech. We're allowed to have opinions. We're allowed to share court documents. We're allowed to have opinions on those documents. We're allowed to paraphrase or comment on what prosecutors say. It's all legally protected in the U.S. Yeah, we need your help with that. We need your help because this is going to go on for a while. And here's the crazy part: in the U.S., if the judge dismisses us, so we're waiting on a hearing date for this for the judge to hear our motions. If the judge says, "Okay, we dismiss you," these people are dismissed from the case. Maybe he'll dismiss everyone. Maybe he'll dismiss some people. Maybe he'll throw the whole case out. We don't know. If he dismisses us, unless we're dismissed with prejudice, which won't happen at this stage, unless we're dismissed with prejudice, Tates and their legal team, they can file an amendment and bring us right back to the case. And there's no limit to how many times they can do this. They can keep filing over and over and over and over again and just pick new tweets or new things to bring it right back and just go through the whole process again. So this is going to drag on for a very long time, even if we get dismissed. Because unless or until we are dismissed with prejudice, they can keep adding us back. And I fully believe that that's what they're going to do. Because as Andrew said, he will spend $1 million to make sure that we have to show up in court every month for the rest of our lives. He says this on video.
I have
Do you
audio
have that?
told I would lose my home over this. So if that's what it comes to, then I suppose that's what it comes to. But I literally have it on audio that they would make sure I lost everything. So all I can say is I wish them the best of luck. I really do, because things are just things and money is just money. And I come from somewhere different, but they said it and they mean this. That's exactly what they'll try to do, just to protect what they've got going on.
Thank you. Yeah.
And another thing is, this isn't going to stop anything. You know, this doesn't stop the information from coming out. This doesn't stop journalism. This doesn't stop reporters. This might stop people who are like, yeah, I don't want that smoke. I don't want to end up in their crosshairs. That might stop normal people, but you know, it's not going to stop the media from reporting. The media with just, you know, an entire floor of lawyers willing to defend them. It's not going to stop the truth from coming out. So this is, you know, I believe they're trying to punish us through this, and they're going to drag us through the mud, and we're going to spend a lot of money doing it. But at the end of the day, you know, I can only speak for myself here, but I believe we all did the right thing. I believe that you can't change the truth. And here's the thing. If you follow these guys' accounts, your story changes. Flip a coin. Whenever they talk about a case or what's happening, the story changes. The story changes over and over and over and over again. The details of the story changes over and over and over and over and over again. The thing about the truth is,
I wanted to point out what you said
change.
earlier. Earlier, Gadget, where you were saying, you know, CoffeeZilla has made videos targeting Tate and all these other large accounts. And so why is he going after people like, you know, just me or me, you, and Crayons? You know, all of us have under 100,000 followers. And even Apostate Prophet, I was on their stream with him and David Wood. And Apostate Prophet, he's been begging for Andrew Tate to sue him. He's been begging for it. He was the one where when the grooming gang UK scandal came back up, when Elon Musk was posting about it, one of the grooming gang survivors spoke out against the Tate brothers. And the Tate brothers threatened her, this grooming gang survivor, with a lawsuit. So she then issued an apology, and they kept. I mean, you know, I believe they kept hounding her. They even said, "That's not good enough. Make me a sandwich." You know, I thought that was just absolutely atrocious, and I know many other people did as well. And Apostate Prophet was the one who came out and pretty much just straight up declared Andrew Tate is a rapist and made that go viral. He made that go incredibly viral. And they haven't touched him. You know, he's got 500,000 followers on YouTube, I think. So that to me is just another reflection of how cowardly they are. That they'll sue people for defamation, but they'll sue the people that they know, you know, don't have that large enough reach to really kind of, you know, rock the boat and get it out there. They're still hoping that they can keep it quiet. So we're doing our best to really kind of make some noise about this and get people to take notice.
Here's the craziest thing. I agree with everything that you just said, but here's the craziest thing. If you are suing people who primarily live outside of the United States, even in a perfect scenario, and I don't believe this is going to happen in any way, shape, or form, but even in a perfect scenario where there's a judgment against people who live abroad, they're not going to be able to enforce that judgment. I just like that alone is enough to tell you that it's not a serious lawsuit. They're not going to be able to enforce any of that, especially for people, you know, if you're living outside the U.S. I just think that's insane. But you're absolutely right. You know, they're not going to go after CoffeeZilla because CoffeeZilla would open a can of whoop ass on them. They don't want that smoke. Badger, did you find that video?
I do, yeah. I can bring that up. And it's a really good one to. I might just even play it in full. So there was a little snippet of it in the intro kind of compilation that I played, but this really gives an idea. This is mask off, in my opinion, Andrew Tate from before he really blew up on Rich Cooper's podcast, and this really kind of shows what we're up against and what he's about, and I think it really kind of explains these lawsuits that he's filing. So first, before I play this video, thank you, The Lies My Lover Boy told me the $200 donation. It's really generous, and Trambu gave a $20 donation as we were speaking then as well. That I've just updated the little last 5 donors there list. So thank you so much. And there is a link. There is a link in the pinned comments in the chat if anyone wants to go directly to the page. As you can donate there as well. But I'm just going to play this video. I'm just going to get this up on screen. Tate Rich Cooper, that's the one. I'm just going to play this in full, and then we might maybe
You can't hide in this.
Sorry guys, and then that might give us a chance to kind of talk about what we're looking at here. And anyway, if anyone hasn't seen this video, just really listen to what he says here. It really gives, there we go, it really gives a good idea of, I think, what he's trying to do with us.
You can't hide in this world. It took all of 3 minutes to get all the information. And as for litigating his parents, I don't need a reason. You're going to have to defend yourself regardless. That's the thing about the American legal system. You cannot ignore it. I don't care if it costs me $1 million to take $1,000 out of your bank. You're going to be in court twice a month for the rest of your human years. I don't care. I will sue you for any and every reason forever. And you're going to have to hire lawyers and turn up forever. I'll do that. I'm that guy. I'm petty. I'm petty, and I've got a lot of money and a lot of time. So it's not even about guilty. It's not about why. It's just about because I can. It's one of many, many things I was going to do. I'd buy the property next to his father's Airbnb and list it for free. I will bankrupt you. You don't understand the levels I will go to. I'm that guy. And he felt it because people turned up at his door. Once I had his address, I started putting, I didn't want to get banned from Twitter. Obviously, it happened in the end anyway. Yeah. But at first, I put his street name. Then I put his house number. And then when guys turned up at his house, I had to fly some friends of mine from Vegas to LA. Like, I had to spend money on this shit. This took time out of my life. When he looked out the window and saw the SUV, then he starts apologizing on the internet. Like, oh, bitch. I still might litigate him into the fucking ground. Why not? What else have I got to do? Anybody could run their mouth to me. I could do the same thing to them. I've turned up at dudes' houses before. I put it on Twitter.
Yeah.
I do this.
Now, for anyone watching, this is not an act. This is not a character. He did these things. He was talking about another kickboxer, I believe it was, who he was beefing with on Twitter at this time, and he did put his name on Twitter. He did send goons to his house. He has arrived as goons at people's houses that for other people on Twitter before he got famous. And he has filed these lawsuits. And he was threatening to file these lawsuits against us for quite some time. Maybe not naming us by name, but saying these people that are, I'm very confident we're not lying, but in his words, these people that are lying about us on Twitter. And again, some of us are, we're not rich, powerful people. We're not people with big platforms like the examples we gave, like CoffeeZilla and Ben Shapiro. I'm someone that's essentially physically disabled and unable to work and lost my career and started doing this. Tate's fans will often say, well, it's your own fault. You should have done this. You shouldn't have done this. You're so stupid. To that, I say, I'm not a coward. I don't care. I'm confident in what I've done. I'm confident in what I've said. But the fact is that we do need help, as Crayons and Just Me and Nathan have said. So if anyone can donate, again, I'm not, this stream isn't about promoting my projects and things. It's all about this, because we do need help to defend ourselves. And also, you heard Crayon say earlier about the Jane Doe case in the US, where they're suing their alleged victim from the US, and they've had other victims in the case use Tate's lawyer to sue this woman. They've sued her parents. They sued the Marine there was a family friend who initially reported this to the embassy. They got a hold of one of her ex-boyfriends, and with the same lawyer, got him to sue her. I don't know what's going through their head and if they plan to do this against us, but in my mind, when I'm asking for anyone that can to donate, or if you can't, share it and keep the fundraiser and this campaign in your mind, that's something that I think of. So yeah, did anyone have anything to add to that clip there? Again, it's not a character, is it? Does anyone want to? Oh, sorry.
I have something to add to that because you talked about they sued the U.S. Marine who called the U.S. Embassy and said there could be an American citizen being held against their will. They sued the Marine. That Marine was dismissed with prejudice because the judge said, basically, you can't sue a Marine for doing his job. He was trying to protect what he believed was an American citizen in distress. And the brothers sued him for it. They sued the parents of one of their alleged victims because she sent them text messages and said, I think these guys are trafficking women. And they said, get the hell out of there. They're suing her parents. Tried suing one victim who didn't live in the U.S. in Florida, and she was dismissed without prejudice. And if memory serves, they refiled amended motions, I think 3 different times, trying to bring her back into the case. Finally, they stopped. It could be because they reached the statute of limitations on what they believed or what they were claiming that she did. Statute of limitation in Florida is 2 years, I believe, for defamation. So the whole thing is crazy. And to touch on something that MilkBar said earlier about the Jane Doe case that I find absolutely insane is they're claiming that she defamed them by telling her parents she believed they were trafficking women. And they claimed that she defamed them during her interview with the Romanian police by stating that basically she gave her account of what happened to the authorities when they asked her what happened. And they sued her for that. They tried to have charges filed against her and one of the other alleged victims in Romania. Romania essentially threw that out. Romania has access to all the information. They have all the evidence over there. They threw that out. So they don't believe that she was trying to defame them in Romania. But in the U.S., the way lawsuits are structured in the U.S., a civil lawsuit, the judge is going to take everything at face value in regards. He's going to otherwise think, okay, until proven otherwise, what they're claiming is truthful. So that case has been going on now for essentially 3 years, I believe. And they've tried to bring in ex-boyfriends to say, oh, well, she tried to get money out of me for this, and she tried to get money for me out of this. And one of the boyfriends, this is crazy. So just to kind of paint the full picture, Tate's lawyer is involved in our lawsuit, is involved in the Jane Doe lawsuit, is involved in the lawsuit where the Romanian trafficking, the Romanian alleged trafficking victim is suing Jane Doe in Florida. And he's involved in another lawsuit in Florida where mysteriously 1 week before Tate filed his lawsuit in Florida, her ex-boyfriend popped up and said that she was extorting him. And mysteriously, he's also using Tate's lawyer. And then a week later, Tate filed his lawsuit and used that lawsuit as some sort of evidence that she's up to no good. And the crazy thing about the first lawsuit filed by that guy is, according to documents, he knew she was a minor. He was with her, having sex with her when she was underage, which is statutory rape, according to the law. According to documents, he knew she was underage. And is still moving forward in court, trying to claim that she was extorting him. Essentially, I think she was threatening to go to the police. The whole thing is absolutely wild. And the first case is a different judge. All the other cases, as luck would have it, have the same judge. They request that judge. I was a gadget. You're showing all kinds of. There you go. I was told that they can request the judge just because he's overseeing the other cases. It kind of makes it easier. But one lawyer in all these cases and the same judge. So I'm really hoping that once the judge gets a chance to look at all of these cases, especially for our case, he hasn't even looked at anything yet. There's been a couple of small procedural steps that have taken place, but he hasn't had a real chance to dig into this yet. I'm hoping once he sits down and looks through all of this and just sees this connection, that he realizes what's happening. I strongly believe that the first lawsuit was filed. Tate's lawyer. How in the world is it even possible that an ex-boyfriend of this alleged trafficking victim in Romania just happened to pop up with Tate's lawyer and file a lawsuit a week before Tate filed his lawsuit using the same lawyer? How is that even statistically possible? Yeah, I don't think any of this is going to play out the way they think it's going to. But unfortunately, everybody has to go through the process. And you've seen him in his own video. That's why he files in the U.S. because people have to deal with it. He said, "I'll spend $1 million, so you have to show up every month in court for the rest of your life." That's what he does.
Crayon, can you touch on the case against Jane Doe in Florida? Is it not have a stay on it from the Department of Justice currently? And at the last hearing, the judge ordered that the Department of Justice had 20 days to come more forward in regards to that stay to keep it in place. Has there been any other update?
Yeah, so there have been 2 stays. And what a stay is essentially the case gets put on pause. And there's a law in the U.S., and I don't have that law in front of me, but to paraphrase the law, if there is a investigation or a case that's happening involving the same defendant, essentially, which would be Jane Doe in this case, it's a trafficking law or something like that. So basically, because she's being sued and because she's an alleged victim of trafficking elsewhere, and it's all part of the same case, there's an investigation by the Department of Justice, and the Department of Justice has requested that the civil case is paused because they don't want civil discovery to interfere with their investigation. So they had one temporary stay. Then they had another stay that was supposed to last for 20 days. They wrote a letter to the judge, according to a Zoom call I was on during the hearing. The Department of Justice wrote a letter to the judge requesting that they stayed the case to not interfere with their investigation. And the judge granted them 20 days. And I find this part a little bit weird. The judge gave them 20 days and said if they want to continue to stay, they're going to have to make an actual appearance in the courtroom. So he won't accept another letter from the Department of Justice. They have to actually go to the courtroom and physical appearance to request a stay if they want that stay to continue. Are they going to do that? I have no idea. I have no idea what's going to happen there. But I just think it's absolutely insane that a letter from the Department of Justice isn't good enough. But whatever, it's his courtroom, he makes the rules. But my opinion is I think that's a little crazy. So I think that 20-day period is coming to an end really soon. So we'll find out probably fairly soon that the Department of Justice is going to make an appearance and request an additional stay or not. Because if they are investigating, but if they're investigating their possible involvement with possibly attempting to traffic her, then it makes sense that any civil discovery should be paused. So nothing interferes with the DOJ investigation. We'll see. I don't know. Vanessa, I don't have a definite answer on that, but thanks, James. James says it's 18 USC 1595 B1.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you covered that part mostly because that is kind of an important piece in the ever-evolving, widening puzzle.
Yeah. I again, I'm not a judge, so my opinion on this might not mean much, but I would think, and obviously I'm wrong here, but I would think that if you get a letter from the Department of Justice saying, "Hey, pump the brakes on this," I would think that you would go, "Okay, let's pump the brakes on this until you tell me otherwise." I think that a federal investigation might carry some weight over a civil case, but we'll see. Hopefully, if they need it to stay longer, hopefully they're going to make an appearance. We'll see.
Looks like it started October 17th, so we've got about 15 or so more days per what James posted. So now we know.
Okay. Oh, the stay starts on October 17th. Okay, so it starts on the 17th. Thanks, James. Again, there's so much going on. It's really easy to get caught in the weeds on some of this stuff because there's between the criminal cases, the different countries, the different lawsuits, countersuits, just so much going on. And there's so much nuance to everything that's happening.
There really is a lot, and which reminds me of one conversation we were having earlier about that's right, all the people that the Tates were blaming about for all the organizations, countries, all these people that the Tates had blamed. I thought it'd be a good time to play a little video that I've put together here. I'll just switch my screen there. Okay, so this is kind of a compilation of two videos, and then I'll get all of your thoughts. And we saw the Tates in the compilation. So Andrew recently said, actually on their latest stream, said that we're all gonna have to explain who's paying us. That's what he said. I might play that video first. It's just here. It would take 2 seconds. Where is it? This is the one here.
Any of these fake accounts who constantly insult me and spread bullshit.
Oh no, wrong one. Never mind. I'll play this video. So this video is a compilation of Andrew, ones of this year, just recently, saying that we are paid by British intelligence services. And then it goes into a clip from last year. He's talking about us, the quote-unquote, in his words, Twitter accounts that are lying about him. So let's have a look at what he says in these this year versus last year.
The British did this, and all of these accounts that were constantly slandering me, insulting me, were psyops. They were getting paid by British intelligence services. This whole thing was a setup head to toe because they were scared I was going to overthrow an election in the UK.
Guys, there's a lot of accounts on Twitter who are constantly pushing misinformation about us. Many of them work directly for DCOT because DCOT are very scared and very annoyed that they've lost the narrative war, and we have proof that they're DCOT agents. So they're literally DCOT agents pushing their garbage. You can ignore them totally. This is not going to last. It's not going to last forever. Nobody believes them anymore. And it's extremely important that we keep getting this narrative out there that they're lying, that they're corrupt. They would never be coming after us if we weren't telling you the truth. Yeah. All the DCOT accounts and all their bots and all their DCOT agents, they're all liars. Everybody knows they're liars. And truth is the ultimate disinfectant, and lies cannot last forever.
Police are here. The British did this.
Okay. So he said something that's kind of true there. The truth can be the best disinfectant. So I think that's kind of proved to be true. And it's funny how this kind of changes based on what's happening and what's kind of convenient for him. So he said that in that first clip. This was when there was some news in the UK. I can't even remember what. There was some news in one of the UK cases. And he came out and he said, talking about us specifically, the people, the Twitter accounts that he's suing, that's us. That's us talking here. That it was the British intelligence services. He had proof. And then a year ago, last year, he's saying that DCOTs, that's the organized crime and whatnot organization in Romania. So the Romanian authorities, we were paid by them, and he had proof of that a year ago. So I'd be curious what the chat thinks about that. Firstly, of those two statements and how they go hand in hand. And he has talked about, in his latest stream, as I said, he said we are going to have to prove who pays us. So I'll go to Nathan, if you're there. Are you paid by British intelligence services?
Yeah.
Are you paid by DCOT? are you paid by the Matrix? What do you make of these contradictory statements?
I'm only getting my $7,000 from Israel every post.
Cha-ching.
That's
every damn post, 7,000.
Every post. Yeah. BB wires it directly to my account. No, that is a joke.
I need to say
Andrew
this
Tate.
really quick. We're joking. We're joking because I know Tate's lawyers are recording this and they're going to try to use this as evidence in court because that's what they've been doing. So that was a joke. No one is actually getting paid by Israel. So I needed to put that out there because they are going to try to put that in their file.
Yeah, I've never received any money from any government to post about Andrew Tate.
I'm just getting in the hole by about $15,000 trying to support funding to prevent sex traffickers that are running rampant all over the world, not just this case. So no pay here.
Yeah, I found that very very interesting when he came out with that that contradictory statement. And then sorry, go on.
This reminds me. Do you remember? It was just in July when Tate made the video where he said that Jane Doe was paid $100,000 from an American NGO in advance to make a statement against him.
Yes.
And nothing since then. No receipts, no documents. I mean, if you watch enough Andrew Tate, this happens all the time, and nothing materializes.
And if any of Tate's fans, sorry, go on, Crowns. There's a bit of a delay. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say nothing ever materializes, which is hilarious. Like,
well, and that's
official documents. You can release official documents.
He said he has.
Case.
I have the fucking paperwork.
All Tate's. Yeah, and all he says is, all he does, all he has to say is he just makes something up and say it, and then all of the fans will be like, yes, that's what happened. It was like, oh my god, that person in here earlier was, why do you guys make fun of Tate fans? Like, that's why. You guys are just so gullible. It's unbelievable. Just once, I would like to see him produce actual documentation of any of the claims that he's making. Just once.
And that takes me to, I'm going to switch my screen here. I've got a post of yours up on the screen, Crayons actually, and I need to give these boys all the props. Nathan and CrayonMurders here. Give them both their accounts are in the description. Everyone should give them a follow. There we go. Here's this post here. And so there's CrayonMurders at CrayonMurders. Give them a follow. So this is a list. And when was this, Crayons? Back in May. This is when Tristan was going on with the Anthony Blinken stuff. I've used this list in a number of my videos, Crayons, when they've came out with the new ones, and I've brought this up on screen and animated it to go through all of them. So I'm just going to read it out, what we had as of May, and then there's been a few more since then. So the list of people and organizations that the Tate brothers have blamed for their legal troubles. So this time the latest one was Anthony Blinken. There's the UK Foreign Office, the Matrix, unnamed Romanian prosecutors, DCOTs, Romanian judges, Team Matrix, it's a nickname for our group of like-minded individuals on Twitter, the UK government, the US government, Jews, Zionists, NGOs, lawyers representing some of the Tate's alleged victims, Matthew Jury and Danny Pinter, victims in the Romanian case, victims in the UK civil case, victims in the UK criminal case, Romanian media, legacy media, NATO, USAID, the Biden administration, prosecutor Rera Stan, of course, George Soros, and there's been a few others since then, but the notable one was when Kamala Harris briefly mentioned Andrew in her latest book, and he spun that as that she said that he was responsible for the entire election, her losing the election, and so she gave Romania a call apparently and told them to arrest them. So he said the exact same thing about all of these people, organizations, and governments. So Crayons, has there been any more since then that we've missed? Because That was in May. I think there's been a few more since
I
then.
think, yeah, I think there was one more, possibly two more since then. You know, and the crazy thing is like you'll see that and you'll see that list and they'll make a new video, a new comment talking about whatever the next boogeyman is. And that becomes the story. That becomes the narrative, and his fans will eat that up. And then some of the fans will say, "Oh, he's just marketing. He's just this is his marketing methods." And you're just like, "No, you're just incredibly gullible and stupid." Like how like I have to bite my tongue sometimes because I try not to be too hard on some of these young men because I know a lot of them are just completely lost in life. But at some point, you have to wonder, like, man, are you guys like, have you all been dropped on your head? Are you wearing like Velcro shoes? Like what? How do these people keep falling for this? There's that meme that goes around, that I think that's they shared a lot within the MAGA space, the fell for it again meme. Fell for it again, fell for it again. That definitely applies for Tate's fans. Like, how many times are you guys gonna fall for this stuff over and over and over? Saying the case is dismissed. I've lost track of how many times he's claimed the case has been dismissed. If the case is dismissed, they would not be under judicial control. The case would be dropped.
I think that's where it doesn't matter. Like they don't really care. It reminds me of how continually it was this chorus of innocent till proven guilty, innocent till proven guilty. But we all know, of course, even if hypothetically they are found guilty, the fans aren't going to then suddenly accept that verdict. Of course, they'll then say, well, the court is also part of the matrix and blah blah blah. But it's just this chorus that they repeat, because that's the thing. It's that they're not interested in the truth. They're not interested in facts. There's no way that you can snap them out of that. What I think is programming.
Programming. That's a good word for
it. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead, Vanessa.
I touch on that a little bit. So, having spent 2 years with someone, believing I think that I came in towards the early end of them getting involved with this organization. I've also listened into a lot of men's rights activist spaces and a lot of different things when I first came here. I can see where it's easy for some of these fans to fall into this. We also have a crisis of materialism going on in this world right now, and not just materialism in a common sense, but in a hyper sense. And so we also see kids facing AI, knowing that jobs are going to be difficult to find. I think it all starts with the things that our children are facing that makes them easy prey for this. Now, I will also add in that once you get in, if you don't wake up within a certain amount of time or start seeing red flags and things that are going on, then I would say that some of these gentlemen, some of their diehard followers, I won't mention by name, but I think they came into this with a propensity with some tendencies in the background already in place that made them wonderful targets to not only bring in initially, but to elevate to other positions. These courses and these colleges, in my eye, are a funnel. They're to funnel men in to make money off of, but also to identify others that might be willing to get more involved in things to be elevated up, either by purchasing more courses, proving themselves, being in places where they might offer something to the group overall. So this is a real in-depth thing. It's not just the little bottom tater tots, as you refer to them. Those are the ones funding the project. And you're right, being dropped on their head, riding the short bus, all the typical comments may apply. But make no mistake that it's also been the funnel to build, and Tate's words I say here, because he said it, his alleged predator army. So, he's been doing a lot of things in the background here, in addition to running this and getting just his common people who will run amok on Twitter and social media platforms, defending his name with broken swords.
Yeah, and let's also not forget that before their arrest, their business model and all the information they were putting out there was significantly different than what it is today. Their arrest and their prosecution has changed everything. And Andrew was on video saying, I believe back then it was called Hustlers University. He said the point of Hustlers University was to bring young men in and get them making money so they can join the war room. And at that particular time, the entire thing based around the war room was teaching men how to put women on OnlyFans and webcam. It was a funnel system, Andrew's own words, to get young men into Hustlers University so they could make money to join the war room. His own words laid out the funnel. And in the war room, they would teach them how to, on OnlyFans agencies, how to take their girlfriends and put them on OnlyFans or get them onto webcam. And we've seen through the actual chat messages from the war room, there was a lot of talk in there that looks like exploitation, that looks like deception. That was the funnel. And then, of course, once the arrest happened, they had to change everything. And I think it's absolutely insane, the blinders that people put on and say, oh, yeah, well, now he's sending money and feeding kids in Syria. Yeah, well, what was he doing before his raid in 2022? A lot of people don't know that when he was raided originally, and I believe it was April 2022, one of the women who worked for him used to be a police officer. Documents show that very shortly after that April raid, she was illegally accessing the police database and keeping tabs on the investigation. So he knew what was happening and what was going on in Romania before he even got arrested. That's when he went on that podcast tour. I believe he went on that podcast tour talking about, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. They can arrest you for no reason. They can charge you for no reason. I believe he went on that tour because he knew what was coming in Romania. Documents show that she was illegally accessing the police database and keeping tabs on the entire investigation. I think it's wild that people pretend that entire history didn't even take place. And we know through documents at, I believe it was the, I want to make sure I get that right. It was the consortium. One second. It's the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. Highly, highly respected group of journalists. They got leaked documents that showed that they were still receiving webcam money from My Free Cams just a couple of months before their December 2022 arrest. To the tune of, let's see here, $2.8 million was sent to Tristan's, I believe it was Tristan's Paxum account from My Free Cams specifically. And that was happening just a couple of months up before their December 2022 arrest. So for them to say we haven't done this for, and it depends on when you ask them, they've said they haven't done it for 7 years, and they said they haven't done it in 10 years. They were doing it according to documents and according to this report that they have. They were doing it just a couple of months at least until they got arrested. There were still posts on Twitter from, I believe it was one of their the charged women, Luana. She posted her OnlyFans advertisement. All the girls were still running OnlyFans advertisements just days before the December 2022 arrest. So according to all of this information, according to OnlyFans, the posts that were happening on Twitter, the documents that were released to the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, they were still involved in all of this pornography until they were arrested in December 2022. Everyone just seems to be okay with that. No one wants to call them on that. I'm like, we haven't done it in 10 years. All of the documents and all the information says otherwise. You were forced to close and you were arrested according to all the information out there, according to tweets and documentation. That's wild. It's just wild, man. That cognitive dissonance and the absolute state of denial of their fans is just, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there's at least 3 Andrew Tate videos that come to mind where he's directly saying, it's COVID, we scaled back up the business,
Yeah, scaled up during COVID, yeah.
Yeah, where he says it over and over again, and he taught an OnlyFans course during COVID. He's there teaching it, The 10-year thing is wild, but again, it's just people don't call him on that. It's amazing. He goes on Piers Morgan, says the same thing, and just Piers Morgan just sits there and nods along.
My personal opinion on this is I believe they're going to be convicted somewhere. I don't know if it's going to be Romania, might be the UK. I believe they're going to be convicted somewhere. And I base that based on evidence that I've seen, and there's just a staggering number of alleged victims that authorities have been able to uncover. And I base that on just all their own material, their own course material, everything that they've said that they did in the past. So it's my opinion. I think they're going to be convicted somewhere. And I believe that all of these pictures people take with them and all of the platforming and the people giving them interviews and just letting them push false narratives, I believe that all of those people are going to go down in history as the equivalent of people who are, people who get pictures taken with Epstein, and now they're being questioned. Why are they getting pictures taken with Epstein? Why were these people going to Romania? Right? Why did these people go to Epstein Island? I think it's going to be the same. My personal opinion is they are going to have similar questions asked of them later. Think about if they're convicted. Everyone who's ever traveled to Romania to hang out with them and went to their home, they need to be questioned. What were they doing there? Myron Gaines. What was Myron Gaines doing in Romania for a month? They're convicted. Right? People like this. Justin Waller. All of these people need to be questioned if they convicted. Patrick Bet David, going to Romania.
George Farmer.
George Farmer. Yeah, all these people need to be investigated and looked into if these guys are convicted. So again, it's my opinion, but I think all these pictures and interviews, it's going to be like an Epstein situation where those pictures are going to pop up. Like it is with Epstein right now. If you had a picture taken with Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, like it's right now like that, you don't want that. I believe that that's going to be the case for these guys.
I mean, it's amazing to me how much the landscape's changed. I was saying this earlier. I mean, the people that platform Andrew Tate now, in my opinion, they have no credibility, really. Right. I don't see them as people that are to be admired. Let's put it that way. And I see when people announce that they'll platform Andrew Tate. I've in the past I'd maybe put a comment underneath like, really? Now I see so many other people do it. I feel like I don't even need to. I've stopped doing that a long time ago. It's incredible to see. In many ways, I think that Andrew Tate, one of the biggest mistakes he made was attempting to become a legitimate commentator. He had this just trail of just, hours and hours of videos showing who I believe he really is. And I think the fact that he tried to kind of change his image from that, I think was a big mistake. I think that's why now he's have to kind of just, in my mind, he has no real cultural relevancy anymore. And he has to just feed back his fans who are all kids, all teenagers who want him to just be the top G, this caricature. So he's kind of just stuck there now. That's how I see it.
He's become a parody of himself. Both of them have, in my opinion. You can look at his comments. Like either one of the brothers, they post something, comments just eat them alive. Just the tide has turned on them. Andrew loves to talk about his time being Google's most Googled man for whatever month that happened. But go and look at that now. Like the fall off is remarkable.
I'm interested, Gadget. Do you know, roughly what would you guess that he has, students wise, in the real world? I see you post fairly regularly about him trying to, he's upping the subscription price and all sorts of things like that. Let's just say it doesn't appear to be going well on the outside.
Yeah, I actually saw someone in the chat ask that question too, so it's good to get to that. So I would estimate now what they say is hundreds of thousands. Tate even did a video trying to, for one of their promotional things he was doing for the real world just last week, I think it was, where he was saying you can be in here learning how to get rich with AI with 150,000 other people all getting rich. Now, I would estimate, and for those that don't know, particularly with the start of my channel and me covering the Tates on Twitter, it was a lot of it was focused on the real world and then getting into the certain grifts that they were doing surrounding that. So I've had sources that were inside the real world who had like leadership roles.
I joined
Yeah.
for a month to have a look.
Yeah. Let me tell you what, Crayons, because you saw that there was most certainly not hundreds of thousands of people when you were in there. When was that? Like year and a half ago, maybe?
It was a while ago. And what I noticed is a lot of the chat room. Okay, you have to put this in perspective. When you start talking about thousands of people, and you start talking about tens of thousands, and you start talking about hundreds of thousands, and you go look at the chat rooms and you go look at the actual activity taking place in there, it doesn't align. A former teacher in there, a former professor told me, he said he would be shocked if there were more than 20,000 or 25,000 students ever. That was his opinion. And he was a former professor in there. But the numbers that they claim to have don't match the activity that you see in there. Not even a percentage of the activity that you should see inside. Are people joining? Yeah, absolutely. Are some people doing well? Yes, absolutely. But I think a lot of this is marketing, and it changes. It changes. 250,000 or 200,000 and 150,000. It changes. Like the stories about their case, depending on the day that you ask them, the number changes.
Well, and that's the thing too. Is sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, what I saw in there, I saw a very small percentage of people, maybe 1% of the people, and they were in the investment rooms and the crypto rooms that were posting actual wins. Everyone else in there was just, appeared to be struggling at the time. And there were so many kids in there from developing countries. It was really sad to see. I posted some of them, and a lot of them were minors. I remember seeing one, and I posted this at the time. I think I took a screenshot of it. And I want to say it was, I don't remember if the young boy was from Malaysia or Indonesia, but he was basically asking for help to make money because he took money to join that the government had given his family. So they were obviously already living in, a destitute situation, and he took the government money for his family and joined the real world thinking he was going to essentially get rich quick. And he couldn't make it, he was failing. He was asking for help. It was those sorts of things were heartbreaking. You see it a lot, kids from India, kids from Malaysia, Bangladesh, Africa, that sort of thing. A lot of underage kids at the time. And I've said this all along. I don't care if these guys have a school. I don't care what they do. Just leave the kids alone. Make it 18 and above, no one's going to care what you're doing. But when you're targeting children, and we know they're targeting children because of Iggy, who was Andrew's right-hand man until the arrest, and all of a sudden, he just kind of vanished into the background too. He's specific. There's a post on this, and I've posted about it, where he talks about their target audience for advertising. I believe he said it was 12 years old? I forget exactly. I think he said it was around 12 years old. I posted that on my timeline. So when you have somebody involved in that organization talking about you are targeting kids as young as like 12 years old, that's a problem. That's a real problem. If they just, hey, 18 and above, come on in. Nobody's going to care. Nobody cares what you do. But when you're targeting children, that's where I think a lot of us draw the line. He has been charged. Zafara says, why has he not been charged? He has been charged with multiple offenses. He has not been acquitted for anything. Nothing has been acquitted. There's been no acquittal. And I want to add clarity to something. He has made the statement that California has dropped charges or the UK has dropped charges. That's not true. He was never charged in California. And for the 4 women who are accusing him of sexual assault and rape and suing him civilly, he was never charged for that in the UK. There were open investigations, and those investigations were closed. Charges were not dropped because charges did not exist. He was not being prosecuted. They just chose not to prosecute. No one was actually charged for that. Those are the sorts of spins that they like to do. Oh, the charges have been dropped. The charges have been dropped in California. You were never charged in California. There's been nothing to drop. We're under investigation in California because by default, if you file a civil suit for something like sexual assault, they're going to look into it to see if criminal charges could be brought. It takes quite a bit of evidence for that, for criminal charges, and it didn't meet that threshold.
Yeah, and Crayons, so when you were in the real world, and because I remember you commenting that there was most certainly like not the activity for the 100,000, 200,000 members that they were claiming to have. And then I was in there a number of months after you. I was in there mid 2024, literally as they were launching Daddy Coin and the real world token. I was in the real world, watching a lot of those scams take place. It was really something. And so what I've seen happen even since then, because the sources that I've had, so there's like, yeah, a professor, other people in leadership positions, former captains in the real world that were in there at the time that the Tates were arrested, in the late 2022 there. And what I've had from multiple sources that would know is that the numbers massively dwindled during that time, because Luke was running it and the Tates weren't there to create that excitement, and it just wasn't the same, and that it just never recovered numbers wise. In fact, it went downhill. And all the research and feedback I've had is since Crayons was in there, and then a bit over a year ago I was in the real world doing a bit for research purposes, it's dwindled massively since then again. Like it's died completely since then, is all the feedback I've gotten. And that's why my opinion, because I was very much campaigning in late 2023 that I believed that the real world was a pyramid scheme, and that it was reliant on the affiliate program where current members recruit new members by posting videos about Tate and how cool he is, with links for people to join the real world, and they get a small percentage of the first payment. So I was believing it was a pyramid scheme reliant on that. But what I saw happen kind of mid last year, kind of around the time I was in there, when they launched Daddy, he switched to doing crypto, he launched Daddy Coin. And what I've seen is them kind of move away from, I don't believe it is a pyramid scheme anymore, because I don't believe that's their main source of income in the real world and the main focus and what it's reliant on. But we've seen Tate multiple times on stream, for example, pump Daddy and a bunch of other crypto coins, yell at all his fans to buy these crypto coins and it's going to go to the moon, and then for the prices to just go to the toilet immediately after the stream. So we've seen this happen. We've seen him do pretty blatant, what I believe is a pretty blatant Lamborghini car lottery scam, where he, they said they're going to give away a Lamborghini with Trump decoration all over it. If anyone that signs up to the real world, which is $50 a month, buys $1,000 worth of Daddy, shares the post, joins the email list, I think it was, will go into the draw, the random draw to win this Trump Lamborghini, and the winner just happened to be a captain in the real world who's like a Andrew Tate fanatic called Justin. He's a bit older, he's in his 40s, I think, and he was just happened to be sitting out. He just happened to had flown in to the workshop that they were streaming where the car was, flown in from Florida to Texas to the workshop, arrived there with luggage, and came in and said, "Oh my God, I'm the winner." I mean, it was really funny. One of my most popular videos, if everyone hasn't seen it, go to the most popular Andrew Tate Lamborghini scam. But anyway, my point is that I've seen them, I believe, get more desperate the more their popularity has dropped, the more they've become more relevant. So I've seen them do more of these schemes. Crowns was mentioned that they've said they were going to raise the price in the real world and you need to join now or you're going to miss out on the old price. They said that the top daddy holders of their crypto coin daddy, they were going to fly them out and have a daddy dinner when they were in Dubai, and a bunch of lads basically bought all this daddy, flew to Dubai, arrived to Dubai, and were just ghosted, and there was no dinner. And so we've seen all these things just keep happening the more that their popularity dropped, and then we've seen Tates just get more unhinged the more they drop postings for attention more. I've seen him, like, in recent months, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, I've seen him, like, post so many videos, just whip out the phone and just yell about something, about women, about black people, about Kamala Harris, and he'll just post multiple videos in a day, because they get his most engagement, I guess, and he never used to do this. So that's what I really think has happened, is that, I mean, they have, for start, I can't imagine their legal bills, what they're paying for those that have listened to the whole stream. You heard Crayons go over all these criminal cases and lawsuits and all these things. And they have a very expensive lifestyle to fund, and their income is completely reliant on showing their fans this lifestyle. So all these things combined, I just believe they've gotten more desperate and more unhinged, and they just try. And as they've done these things, I also saw someone in the chat say, it was one of the guys that left early because it was getting a bit late where they were, but they said that they commented that a lot of their fans have left after these crypto rug pulls, for example. And that's what I think's happened too, is they've had to keep ramping it up, because the more they do these things to their fans, their most loyal fans, the ones in the real world paying, they're getting less paying monthly subscribers, and they're having to just ramp it up even more. I've seen a real snowball effect happening. It's been really interesting to watch. It's like his teeth just get bigger and bigger every time these things happen as well. He's a big chomping horse veneers that he's got. So, it's been really interesting. Yeah, does anyone have anything to add after that? I've just had a bit of a tangent.
Oh, I think that's spot on. I believe that documents show that they were still deeply involved in the pornography industry until their arrest in December 2022, and they had to stop all of that. So I believe that what they're doing with the real world is they're pushing that so hard that that's their replacement. They think about it. And they've made videos talking about making millions of dollars through webcam and OnlyFans. If you're making millions of dollars through webcam and OnlyFans, and all of a sudden it just abruptly ends, you're going to have to replace that income. I think that's where the monumental push for real world and all of that comes from. And I can't even fathom what their legal bills are. I don't even want to, like, I know what it's costing us, and we're just dipping our toes in this. I can't even imagine how many hundreds of thousands of dollars possibly per month they're spending on legal fees. Yeah, look, this is going to play out how it's going to play out. I believe that one of these criminal cases will convict him. I believe that they are going to lose the majority, if not all, of their civil suits. I believe there's a strong case with the countersuit against them from Jane Doe. I believe she's going to win. They might get a win here or there, but I don't think they're going to win them all, because it's different when it comes to criminal cases versus civil cases when it comes to the standard of evidence. So when it comes to a criminal case, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. You've probably heard that before. You have to convince the judge or a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. That means that there's no other reasonable alternative explanation other than the crime was committed. It's a really high standard. It's the highest standard that you have. But for a civil case, the bar is not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a preponderance of evidence. That technically means that if it's just 51% believable, you could win a judgment. So you don't have that really high standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. So because of that, that's why I think they are going to lose most of their civil suits. And I believe, again, I don't know if it's going to be Romania or the UK, but I believe somewhere they will be convicted. Just based on all the documents that I've read, based on witness statements, alleged victim statements, chats off of their own devices, I believe that someone somewhere get them. Maybe it will be the United States. I don't know. I really don't know. It could be for something totally unrelated. Now, if you look at, what is it, Al Capone in the U.S., didn't they get him for tax evasion? It might not be charges of exploitation. It could be something financially related that takes these guys down. I don't know. I feel that somebody will get them somewhere eventually, and they have the money to drag this out for a very, very long time. Romania is more or less a safe haven for them for now, based on the current agreement between the UK and Romania. UK is not going to do anything until Romania is finished. So as long as they can drag this out in Romania, they're essentially going to be able to live their life there. And keep in mind, once they get, like, they're just waiting on another indictment. The case was sent back to prosecutors back in December of last year. All this time is back in the investigation stage. So the indictment has to come again. After the indictment, it has to go through the whole process of the preliminary chamber. I think last time that was 6 or 7 months. Then the preliminary chamber judge says you can go to trial. And they appealed that decision. I think it took another half a year to get into court for that. So you're talking, even in a best case scenario, best case meaning for prosecutors, a best case scenario, if they were indicted tomorrow, best case scenario, if it goes to the preliminary chamber and they lose their appeal to go to trial, because they're going to appeal it again, best case scenario, it might take a year before a trial could be announced again. And that's if they're indicted tomorrow. Worst case scenario for prosecutors, other than just completely dropping the case, would be it passes through the preliminary chamber orders the trial, they appeal the decision to go to trial, and the appellate courts side with their appeal, which means it would get sent back to prosecutors again. And I really don't know if DCOT would go at them a third time. And I don't think they should. Like, if you can't get this right within 2 runs, you should probably just wrap it up and send them to the UK. That's my opinion on that.
What's the crayons? Is it 5 years? How long do they have? Until they've run out of time.
For what specifically?
Well, I thought it was, once they were initially charged, then the kind of clock starts, and they have a certain amount of time.
The clock starts. I want to say originally. Yeah, I don't have the law in front of me, so I don't want to misspeak on that because
no, that's fine.
I'll get clipped and you don't know what you're talking about. I don't have that in front of me, but there is a time limit. But here's the catch: the case gets sent back to the prosecutors. It goes back into the investigation stage again, so that kind of resets the clock.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Right, because there's different stages. You have the investigation stage. And then once the indictment comes, and by the way, Romania does this a little bit differently. So you're charged with the actual offenses in Romania and before you're put on a preventive measure. So these guys, when they came out and said, "Oh, we haven't even been charged. We were locked up with no charge," that wasn't true. So in order to be put under preventive arrest or house arrest or judicial control, you have to be charged with the offense. So even though it's under the investigation stage, they've been charged with the offenses. An indictment in Romania is essentially the conclusion of the investigation and the finalization of the charges. So they might consolidate some charges, they could add some more, they could even technically remove some if they wanted to. But it moves from the investigation stage to the preliminary chamber. The clock really starts ticking once they get indicted again. During the investigation stage, I mean, they can just drag this out.
What's your pure speculation? What do you think is going on in Romania? I mean, because I think you're right. There's an element where it's I believe it's a safe haven for the Tates. The last place they want to be now is probably in the UK, where they're trial ready, and it's going to be a very, very public trial. So in many ways, it favors them to still be in limbo in Romania. I mean, well, just your pure speculation. Do you think there's some form of corruption at play in their favor? I mean, how serious do you think the Romanians are with really prosecuting them now? I mean, just pure speculation. What are your thoughts?
Pure speculation. I believe there's a couple of things going on. I think that Tate fully expected to go to trial. I mean, obviously, that's why they indicted him. They indicted him planning to go to trial. And the preliminary chamber judge that reviewed the indictment ensured that everything was done according to law and all the evidence was acquired legally. And then they appealed the decision, and 2 judges, technicalities, irregularities. They said, back to the prosecutors you go. So I think a couple things are happening. Number one, I believe Tate was probably taken by surprise. And they are now they're crossing every I and dotting every T to make sure that this doesn't happen again. I think they're doing that. Number 2, I think the brothers are using every possible legal tool that they have at their disposal to prolong any possible decision. So anything they can do to drag this out, I think they're going to do it. Because every decision can be appealed. I think they can use every single legal tool at their disposal to drag this out for as long as humanly possible, because as long as they can live in Romania, even though they're being prosecuted there, they get to live their life in Romania. And with certain travel restrictions, they can come and go out of Romania. So that's more or less a safe haven. But when they go to the UK, the gig's up. So I think they're going to do everything in their power at whatever cost to prolong this for as long as possible to not go to the UK. Once you're in the UK, you're stuck, you're in it, and they're going to move quickly. So whatever it costs, however many millions they're going to have to throw at this, and they're going to use every legal loophole in their in the legal toolbox to make it happen. I don't want to lean on corruption. I hope that's not the case. Of course, you can't rule that out, even that it's Romania, but I haven't seen anything about that. I think Tate is just probably being extra cautious, because imagine if they go through the preliminary chamber again and a trial gets ordered, they appeal it, and they win that appeal too. What's Tate going to do? Here's what I personally think. There are laws that can be enforced from the UK or from the United States. Things like trafficking in minors or having sex with minors, trafficking in general. There are certain things that the UK or the United States could prosecute for if they wanted to. I personally believe that they should divvy those up. Okay, can they be prosecuted for this one in the UK? Okay, cool, let the UK handle it. Can the US prosecute for this one? Cool, let the US handle it. I think that if Tate doesn't indict them by the end of this year, they should divvy up with the charges based on whatever country can prosecute for those, and let those countries handle it, and they should bow out. They might get sued for it. It'll probably cost them millions of dollars. But if they're not capable of handling these guys, then they should let somebody else do it. That's my personal opinion. And to El Mugre TV says, what will happen if the UK criminal case starts before the Romanian case ends? Currently, that's not going to happen. Where the current agreement is, Romania said that they will extradite them, but only when they're finished. That doesn't mean that the agreement can't change. My personal opinion on this, and I have to keep saying personal opinion because I know they're going to clip this and try to put it in our file. I believe that there will come a point if this drags out for too long, where the UK is going to say, okay, enough. Let us have a crack at these guys. There is a mechanism to where if this is going to drag out in Romania, where they could be sent to the UK, they could go through the system there, and they could be sent back to Romania when the UK is finished with him. But that could happen too. And I think, something like that should probably happen. The longer this drags out, the more the public loses interest, the more there's a likelihood that governments are going to change, prosecutors are going to change, people in charge are going to change, and they might lose interest as well. And that's drawing out criminal cases is a tactic that some people use if you have the money to do it. Sometimes that can play in your favor. That's my pure speculation take on it. Shit or get off the pot, Romania.
Yeah.
One thing you didn't mention too is that victims move forward and mend and heal in their lives, and they come to a point where they don't want to have to come back and readdress this.
Yes.
So they shift off into the shadows so that they have a chance of having something after this. And that's a very huge tactic that they're using as well.
Yes. The longer this goes on, the more difficult it's going to be to get cooperation from those involved, witnesses, alleged victims, etc. They want to move on with their life. They don't want to keep reopening those wounds. I believe all of this is tactical. I think, they have access to U.S. lawyers excluded. I believe they have some access to some good lawyers in Romania. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think their lead lawyer in Romania is used to be one of the head prosecutors, if I remember correctly. So he knows the tricks. He knows how to do things. Yeah, they're going to drag this out for as long as humanly possible. And there's also the possibility that if they're convicted in Romania, and I'm not sure exactly at what stage this takes place because it's been so long since I've looked into it, but they can also file an appeal with the European courts. If they believe that they were treated unfairly, that doesn't mean European courts have to hear it. They can file an appeal with the European courts to have a second look at the case if they can provide some evidence that makes them believe that they were treated unfairly in Romania. I mean, this could drag on for just years and years and years, which is unfortunate for alleged victims involved.
Yeah.
And I've already lost interest. I don't know about you guys. I've completely lost interest. I'll keep reporting on this at a minimal level if there's anything that needs to be reported on, if there's something significant. But otherwise, I'm not checking stuff anymore. Like if somebody says, "Oh, hey, there's been an update," cool. I'll have a look at it. If it's significant or if it's important, I'll post about it. Otherwise, I just don't care anymore. This has drug on for so long. I have my opinions. I think these guys, my opinion is these guys are guilty as hell, in my opinion. And I'm not gonna, there's no point in trying to cover every minute detail for the next several years of this. There's just no point at all. I will cover any significant updates if they're important. But people ask me, well, how come you're not reporting on this thing? Or because it's not important.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing where, when I first started I'm probably all of us, when we first started posting about this, the Tates absolutely dominated the narrative. So I think we all agreed that, that's not right, that they're able to, in my opinion, lie about their cases, lie about their alleged victims, and, send out these narratives that are amplified by what I believe is this, network. And so, I thought it was right to push back against that with the truth. Whereas now, the Tates don't have that impact. I mean, like we said, it's well and truly turned against them. The public favor just isn't there anymore. That is the funny thing. It's just, I'm not posting, partly because of this lawsuit, but even if it wasn't for this lawsuit, I probably wouldn't be anyway, because I just, they don't have any cultural relevance. So in a large part, I would feel like if I was posting about it, I would be giving them attention that they don't have. I mean, you're right. It's, but I think that's part of it. It's part I believe is them trying to get revenge, because we did post about it. So it's like, well, you guys can't, we're not going to let you get away,
All right, guys. I think it's nearly time to wrap up, as I'm sure Nathan would agree. It's getting a bit late here in Australia. So I was just thought we'd maybe go around and get some final words, and then maybe do another quick ask for anyone who's maybe joined late or listening to the replay about the fundraiser. So just me / Lost Girl. Do you have any final words that you wanted to say for anyone that's listened, and any kind of final insights that you want to give about being a part of this and listed in this lawsuit with your 50 followers that the Tates say you're spreading lies to?
Gadget, I'm selling a ukulele in my driveway from my shop at the moment. May I please go last?
Absolutely. Sure. That sounds cool. No worries. Let's go. Let's go, Nathan Livingstone / MilkBar TV, and he's I believe the MilkBar TV is your handle on Twitter, where you're most prominent, I believe, posting and doing some great work covering Candace Owens and a lot of her lies and her bizarre things with the Macron case and what she's saying about the Charlie Kirk assassination. So but shout out to if anyone's interested in seeing her very bizarre posts dissected in a way that not many are. So but yeah, is there any kind of final words that you wanted to have for the audience and for those listening on the replay?
No, thanks for tuning in. It'd be good to do this somewhat more regularly, and we can hopefully give some more updates and talk about what's going on. But no, I think it's there's so much to talk about with the whole Andrew Tate thing. I just even just like culturally what's going on. So yeah, there's plenty to discuss. So I'd be happy to come back and for us to do this again and to play some more videos and take some questions. But no, thanks. Thanks for having me, Gadget, and thanks for tuning in, guys. And yeah, if you can chip in whatever you can, that would anything, no matter how small. We appreciate it. We love seeing the messages that you guys send of support as well, and just help get the word out there. If you know of anyone that might want to cover it, if you know of any journalists or any YouTubers or anything like that, then also just helping to spread the word about the Give Send Go really helps as well, and we appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, no, thanks for coming on and sharing your side of this as well. It's been an interesting number of months, having gone on 60 Minutes with myself and Nathan, and then to where we are now. So CrayonMurders, Mr. Crayon. Thank you for joining us, and it's always a pleasure to have you. Like I said, I think we've all got our different kind of ways of doing things, and Livingstone's probably the best, maybe the GOAT when it comes to creating these really dissectable viral videos, and I think you are when it comes to breaking down these very complicated lawsuits in ways that are very easy to understand. So thanks for coming on, and maybe a bit of a I don't know, a bit nostalgic, I guess, with the spaces that we haven't done for quite a while, since there's been nothing to really report on and do Twitter spaces on. It's been nice to have you on. But do you have any kind of final words and final things that you wanted to say, and last things you wanted to get across to the audience? Are you there, Crayons, or are you muted? Crayons might have ducked out. That's okay. Just me, are you still selling a ukulele, or do you have
Oh, the beautiful vintage ukulele found its forever home.
Oh,
so
wow.
yay. I just want to say, first of all, thank you again to you three gentlemen, because the level of awareness that you've put out in the world has been phenomenal. And I know that it's greatly appreciated by not only those who tell you so, but by those who don't. Many blessings to everyone who is here today, those who donated, those who helped share the fund, or even those who just send prayers. Every bit of that adds up in the defense we need against what we're obviously fighting, which in my eyes is not just a couple of men, but we're fighting a lot of evil that's beginning to spread in our world and infect our youth that we really do need to put a stop to. We're seeing the lawsuits come out everywhere now. So we need to wake up. We need to make other parents aware. I've even had to make my children aware of what my granddaughter, she was on that Roblox platform and they didn't know it. So it's all about spreading awareness. It's about protecting people from being grifted, from being sucked into programs that possibly give them misinformation about relationships or how to earn money or different things like that. There's so many people out there right now that are earning a living off the backs of this, what I call pollution. And just appreciate everyone supporting our free speech and our ability to stay engaged in the fight to push back against it, which all of us should always, especially in my country, America, we have the right to do this. It's called free speech. And that's why the balance between good and evil has always remained such in the world, because good has pushed back equally against evil. And we have to make sure that we ensure that balance stays in place in all of the arenas in our life currently.
The crazy thing is how much both of those guys, even their lawyer, talks about free speech. They're always talking about free speech. Protecting free speech is so important. And free speech, and then they're suing people who exercise their free speech. Like, that's just insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, and they even just as recently as last week saying we're going to be suing all these people. And we saw Tristan in the compilation I played, but he was on one of these podcasts, Samuel Leeds podcast, saying, I'm going to be suing all these people for the rest of my life just because I find it funny. He said this, his words, not mine. So it's for free speech absolutists, as they claim to be, not to mention the people that are in their network who are so big on free speech. Oh, his friend Tommy Robinson for one.
Yeah.
But all these people, the hypocrisy is incredible. So I hear backgrounds. Yeah, have any last things you kind of wanted to say before we, or anything else that you wanted to get out there before we finish up?
Yeah, two things. One, I think it's hilarious that they're suing anybody, but especially suing Meta and TikTok, claiming that there's some government conspiracy to silence them. I think that's absolutely hilarious. Their lawyers, and this is my opinion, are essentially ambulance chasers in the U.S. Very little experience, and they've done some really shoddy work up to this point, in my opinion, of course. And they're going after the lawyers from Meta and TikTok. I just think that's some of the funniest shit on earth. And they both filed to, I don't know what the wording is on that. They both filed in California. They had to work through a lawyer in California, and they filed to essentially for their own privacy, because they don't want their privacy violated in California. In the documents, the lawyers claim that they've had Joseph McBride claimed that he had a threat or something in the past or whatever. Just hilarious stuff. While they're trying to expose people and unmask people, they're filing for their own privacy. It's just absolutely insane. And Joseph McBride, one of his lawyers, according to him in his own space, he has a bar complaint against him. So I don't know if he's already dealt with that or if he's in the process of dealing with that. But he does have a bar complaint filed against him already. So yeah, these guys are not. These guys aren't the top, and I think it's hilarious for someone who publicly states that they're worth. I mean, depending on when you ask, hundreds of millions of dollars or a billionaire, as Tate likes to say. Yet he hires clowns, absolute clowns for lawyers. I think that's hilarious. At least in the U.S. So yeah, and Manny Otis, the other one, he wasn't very experienced, claims that lots of pizzas were ordered to their house. What? Nobody's ordering pizza to your house, dude. I bet if you track that down, it probably goes back to him, somebody he knows. That's just hilarious. So yeah, one thing I would like to do before we close this down, I would like to take questions out of the chat. I've seen lots of questions come up, but if anybody has any, let's just pick a couple of questions before we close it down. I'd be happy to answer them if I'm able to answer them. So if anybody has anything that they want to ask, go ahead. It doesn't matter if you're pro Tate or against Tate, doesn't matter. Happy to answer any questions the best I can.
I'm just scrolling up to see.
Yeah, but I think there's a delay with that.
Yeah, I'm in the YouTube studio, so I might get a few quicker if I scroll up here.
Yeah, I do think that the case against Meta and TikTok, I think that'll be interesting. Like you're in the big leagues going up against their lawyers.
I'd love to be fly on the wall with the Meta. These there must be top lawyers reading these things, and they're accidentally filing lawsuits against the wrong Meta entity that doesn't apply to banned.
Oh yes, they sued the wrong Meta entity. That's hilarious. That's how good their lawyers are. They sued the wrong Meta entity. Like, let that sink in. These guys are claiming to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they hired lawyers who sued the wrong Meta entity. Like, oh my God, so funny.
That was great.
Yeah, and as James said, so apparently when they filed, so in our lawsuit, they went out of their way to add this thing in our lawsuit claiming that they've lived in Romania for a decade and they're not subject to federal law. They want to keep our case in state and federal court. Things move really quickly. Judges don't fuck around in federal court. They move quickly and they don't allow a lot of these tactics to play out in federal court. So for our case, they've tried to not have it move to federal court by claiming stateless and all this other nonsense. And then they filed against Meta and TikTok, but they used federal statutes to make the claim. And then Meta and TikTok was able to move their cases to federal court because of that snafu. Their lawyers are just a mess. Now that's going to federal court, who's going to quickly be able to deal with this. Yeah, just wild.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done with questions. There's no more coming through. One thing I have found with these, I've done a few streams now, is that I get a few trolls and pests at the start, and once they realize how hard I am to offend, they get bored and leave, and then it's just all my friends here just doing a stream.
You can tell the maturity level and the age of a lot of the fans when they come in, even on X and stuff, because they'll come in. I saw some idiot come in and call you a femboy, or they just use like childish insults. Like, dude, what are you, 12? Like, that's just wild. So Miss Sharon says, do you think Tates make most of their money from connections within the U.S.? If so, do you think all these foolish lawsuits are nothing more than narrative building? I believe all of these lawsuits are a public attempt to try to convince everyone that there's a grand conspiracy against them. That's what I think their public lawsuits are. They're trying to make the public believe that there's a grand conspiracy. And all these people are conspiring together. Meta, TikTok, us, everybody else that they're suing, some giant conspiracy against them. And I think if they're convicted somewhere, they're going to be able to say, see, I told you. See, I told you it was a conspiracy against us. I think that's the seed that they're planting now. And I think they're willing to spend millions of dollars to try to convince people of that. So if there is a conviction, they're able to say, they're able to cry foul. We didn't get a fair shake. It was a conspiracy. We told you they were going to convict us for no reason, etc. In regard to the money, hard to say. I know they do a lot with crypto, but I've seen some crypto guys post, and apparently Tate takes some unbelievable losses when it comes to crypto. So I don't know there. They probably make a decent amount of money with their school, the real world. They don't get all the money, obviously, because they would have to pay professors and all the overhead and advertising and all of that, but they probably do okay. I think the fact that they push it so hard, I think they definitely need to replace the money that they lost from having to close down OnlyFans or webcam. And again, my personal opinion, I personally believe they probably still have some girls on webcam or possibly even OnlyFans. My opinion. My opinion. Speculating.
I believe so as well. I can't confirm. I can't say as fact, but anecdotally, I have reason to believe so as well.
Yeah.
Just have a quick.
Where is he getting the money to support his lifestyle? Who's to say?
They keep supporting
crypto,
themselves
could be the
with new
school.
merch and Fireblood and all these other ancillary type products too. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. All the products, all the merch, the schools. I wouldn't be surprised if they have people supporting them out of Dubai or someplace else. Who knows? I wouldn't be, he talks a lot about he didn't take money from this group or that group. I wouldn't be surprised if he's taken money from lots of groups, in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised if his entire conversion to Islam wasn't something that was financed by somebody. When you look at everything that he does and everything that he's said and all of the evidence that's been piled against him, I wouldn't put anything at, I believe this guy would do anything for money. My opinion. He would do anything for money. He would take money from anyone to say anything. That's the type of guy I believe he is based on everything that I've seen him do already. If he's getting cashed out from Dubai, I don't know. I know there was a Romanian news, I'm not going to call it a documentary, a news investigation early on where they were trying to connect Tate's money to Dubai. I posted something about that. But they posted him and Jules, Sartorial Shooter, Tom Khan. They were making the connection between Tate's money and money coming out of Dubai. So I wouldn't be surprised, again, in my opinion, if there's something going on, somebody pipelining them cash in Dubai. But who knows? Hard to say. Do I think there'll be a baby boy born who can swim faster than a shark? I don't know, at some point. Does he really have kids? Yes, both of them have daughters. I have not found any actual evidence, regardless of what everybody says online, that he has a son. I've only seen that they have daughters. Does that mean he doesn't have a son? No, he might. I haven't been able to verify that. Kristen has several daughters, and I believe Andrew, I've seen evidence, I believe, of 2 daughters. I've got that written down somewhere. I don't have that in front of me right now. But I haven't seen any actual evidence of a son.
I think if Andrew Tate had a son, we would know.
Yeah. I mean, he posts pictures and stuff like. I don't believe. I don't believe those are his. Because and now I remember. I think he actually gave a statement to the court where he talks about he hasn't seen his daughter in a certain amount of time. So, I believe Andrew has 2 daughters, if I'm not mistaken. I think Tristan has 3, and that's the curse, which I think is just ironic.
Yeah,
there you have these guys preaching masculinity, and they can't even have men. They can't even have boys.
I certainly don't think he has 15 children like he likes to claim because he thinks that sounds so tough. Apparently.
No.
I would definitely pray for those girls, only knowing who they're going to encounter in their lifetime and what father's opinions are.
Can you imagine how those, oh my God, you see Kanye West's children growing up. I just saw a picture of one of his daughters today, tattoos on her face and everything. I can't even fathom what their daughters are going to grow up like. But to be fair, maybe the mothers will do a good job. Maybe they'll keep them away. Maybe they'll do a good job without them. But if they're around the brothers, I feel sorry for the girls.
Well, that's what I find interesting.
What was it the wizard said? Our sons will marry our daughters.
Say that again.
Wasn't it Iggy who's in a video stating clearly our sons will marry our daughters?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Talking about the war room group. Their sons will marry the daughters, etc.
Oh, good God.
So culty. So cult-like.
Well, this is what I find really interesting as well about, and maybe ironic, when you see them, both of them, complain about, look at what they're doing to my daughters and my mother and my poor grandmother who we didn't get to see before she died, and all these things. And it's like, so these are men, these are guys that preach taking accountability for your own actions. I mean, these are things you should think about before running alleged trafficking rings, or even like the things that they've openly done, like committing not paying taxes for 13 years or however long it's been. So yeah, this is where I think before someone does such things, they should maybe think about their kids if they have children, or their mother, or their grandmother if they've got an older grandmother who, if they couldn't travel, they wouldn't be able to see. So yeah, I don't know. It's all a bit weak. More questions in there.
I agree. Look, if you, and another thing is this, prior to their arrest, when were they talking about their kids? When were they talking about their mother? When were they talking about all of these things? Right? But if they moved to Romania by choice, they chose to do OnlyFans, they chose to do Cam, they chose to run their business, and I put business in air quotes, the way that they did, and all of that led to criminal charges. And multiple countries, prosecutors in multiple countries believe that they broke the law based on those business practices that they had. So if you are going to do those things, allegedly, then you're not really thinking about your kids. You're not really thinking about your grandma. You're not really thinking about your mother. You're not thinking about the risk. And people say, oh, well, Romania is so unfair and it's so slow. These guys chose Romania. No one made them move to Romania. No one made them open an OnlyFans agency. No one made them get involved with webcam and do all of that in Romania. Nobody made them do that. They made that choice. So if you go to these countries and you do things that prosecutors believe could be illegal, then you're going to go through that country's legal system. So, I'm a firm believer of, everything that's happening to them is a direct consequence of their choices. Regardless if they're going to get found guilty or not, they've put themselves in this situation. Just looking at the evidence in documents alone, chat messages that come off of their phone, you have these guys acknowledging that they have sex with minors. Tristan Tate talking about having anal sex with a 16-year-old girl. Just seeing that stuff. And you're like, listen, these are your chat messages. You're saying this stuff. You are going to reap what you sow when it comes to this sort of thing. Because there is no scenario in any rational world where 30-plus-year-old men should be engaging in sex with 15 and 16-year-old girls. I don't care what the age of consent is. And Tate fans love to say, well, yeah, but the age of consent was 17 well, it's 11 in Nigeria. Are you going to go have sex with the 11-year-olds in Nigeria? Is that what you're going to do? Is that what you're trying to say? No, you're not. We don't live in that time anymore. We've evolved as people. Grown men don't have sex with children anymore. Veronica says exactly, they're trash. Yeah, I believe that. My personal opinion is they're trash. There's just no justification for it. Forget human trafficking, forget everything else. If you are having sex with 15 and 16-year-old girls, you need to go to prison. That's my opinion. In my opinion, I don't care what the age of consent is. If you are having sex with a 15-year-old girl, or 16-year-old girl, as a 35-year-old man, you are not fit to be in society, in today's society. That's my opinion.
I mean, I'm
just gross.
I'm close in age to these guys, and I just can't wrap my head around the depravity that we see with them talking to these young girls who are really old enough to be our daughters, really, if someone started young. I mean, what the hell?
I have a daughter that age. Let me tell you as a father how badly I would hurt someone of that age if they did any of that shit to my daughter. Listen, I can't put into words, and if anyone in here is a father, a daughter, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There is no, from a protective standpoint, like when you have sons, you worry about your sons. You hope that you raise them in a way that they're going to take care of themselves and they can handle themselves. You have a daughter, you hope that you raise them in the right way so that they can handle themselves, etc. But what you can't really prepare your daughter for is predators who seek out young women like this. And as a father, I fully understand why you have situations where fathers go postal on people who hurt their children, hurt their daughters, rape their daughters, etc. Like I understand it. You know, you hear, oh, this father beat this predator to death with his bare hands. Like I understand that. Completely understand that. There's a thing inside, and I'm trying to say this without going overboard here. Just as a father to a daughter, a predator were to do any of these things these guys allegedly did to those 15 to 16-year-old girls, like, there's nothing that I would not do to them, to any predator that would do that. There's nothing that I would not, like, it would be a bad day for the predator that does any of that shit. A really bad day. That's the nicest way I can say that.
All right, on that note, guys, I'm going to have to wrap it up. Old Gadget is getting ready to crash. It is, where I am, 2:12 a.m. So it's getting a bit late. So firstly, thank you to my guests, Crayons, Nathan, Just Me / Vanessa. Yeah, thank you really very much for coming on, and it just kind of show you, yeah, some of my followers, and especially maybe the trolls that I get, might not realize this isn't just me that the Tates have decided to sue. No pun intended, just me. I didn't mean to say that, but it's a good. Yeah. As I was saying it, it's not just me. I don't mean it's not just her. But and again, there's someone who had an experience with someone in Tate's circle, in Tate's network, and had the nerve to talk about it and share, and has 50 followers on Twitter, and is being sued by these. They're not as rich as they say they are, I believe, but rich people, for harming their reputation, apparently, by, as they allege, lying to her 50 followers. So if people are deciding whether to donate or not, that's something to consider. So for those that have listened all the way through, there's been quite a lot of listeners that have that seem to have stayed for the whole stream. So thanks so much for everyone that's listened, stayed.
We're almost at the halfway mark. Almost at the halfway mark for our fundraising. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah. And thanks to everyone that's donated. And there was one, especially a generous donation that came through during the stream. But everyone that's donated, everyone that's shared, anyone that does donate who's listening to the stream. And there's a lot of important information that might be new for some people on YouTube that maybe haven't been in our Twitter spaces in the past as well. So if everyone can please also like the stream if you enjoyed it on the way out, and leave a comment in the actual comment section of the video of the stream. That really helps YouTube show it to more people as well. And yeah, we do need help fighting this lawsuit, and we don't know what other things that the Tates and their lawyers are going to try that they might have, for example, with Jane Doe and Mary Doe in that case there. So if everyone can donate, please do. If you can't, if you can please share it. Share the fundraiser on your social media pages. That every little bit helps as well. And yeah, we might do some more of these streams for those the guests that can join us. We might do some more of these streams as well. Especially if there's case news. I'd love to do, if there's any really important news, the kind of equivalent of our Twitter spaces on here. That'd be really cool as well, as I'm getting the hang of this whole live streaming thing. So what I might do, one last thank you to our guests that made this stream possible. There's no way by myself I can do a 3.5-hour stream with my fatigue issues. That's not going to happen. But on the way on, yeah, as I finish up the stream, what I might do is just, for anyone who's listened and maybe thinking about donating, firstly, there's a link to the lawsuit in the link to the fundraiser. So if you want to read more and research more, understand, I've done a lot of fundraising for charities in my time. I understand when people want to think and research before they donate to a cause. So you can read through that. And on the way out, I might as well just play this compilation of the Tates talking about, there's one clip of Andrew talking about suing some other kickboxer. And then there's some clips of both Tate brothers talking about us, about the quote-unquote accounts on Twitter who are lying about them. So I'm going to click that now. So thanks everyone for listening. Thank you to my guests. Thank you to everyone that has donated and does after listening to the replay as well. And I'm going to let the Tates kind of take away when they talk about how funny it is to sue people because they think it's funny and sue people for the rest of their life. So thank you everyone, and we'll be keep an eye out for the next live stream.
I don't need a reason. You're going to have to defend yourself, regardless. That's the thing about the American legal system. You cannot ignore it. I don't care if it costs me $1 million to take $1,000 out of your bank. You're going to be in court twice a month for the rest of your human years. I don't care. I will sue you for any and every reason forever. And you're going to have to hire lawyers and turn up forever. I will do that. I'm that guy. I'm petty. I'm petty and I've got a lot of money and a lot of time. So it's not even about guilty. It's not about why. It's just about because I can.
Since then, we've sued all those people who were lying about us on Twitter.
You are going to jail. You are going to jail. And for those of you watching, my special viewers who are not going to jail, I'm going to financially bankrupt you. You know that house your mother owns, your father, your uncle, where you live, your business? I'm going to take everything you have. I just want to remind a few special viewers who I know are watching tonight that you are going to jail, or losing your job, or losing your business and or house.
So you plan to sue the makers of adolescents?
I've got a lot of people to sue. My people to sue list is very, very long. And, I've got probably, a good 10, 15 more years of this. I'm going to be suing people all the time for the rest of my life. Even if it just bankrupts them and I don't even win any money, it'll just be fun.
I still might litigate him into the... Why not? What else?
Are you suing the BBC for $1 billion?
I don't know who I'm suing, but the list is as long as my arm. I'm suing a lot of people. I have a team of high-powered lawyers. Sue this person, they said this. Sue this person, they said this. All these lawsuits are starting. All these people are panicking, getting letters to their house. These court cases are definitely going ahead. So yeah, I'm gonna sue loads of people just because I think it's fun.
We're suing everybody. Everybody who lied about us. Everybody who contributed to this slander campaign is going to be taken to court, where they're going to have to explain who paid them to do this.